What's up, gang? This is Food Network star and culinary master of the Marvel Universe, Justin Warner, and you are listening to the podcast that's everything you ever wanted but never asked for. You know it, PSVG Prime. Now that that's out of the way, hey, where we dropping, boys?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to PSVG Prime, the flagship show of the PSVG Podcast Network. As I, your host, Kevin, and of course, with me as always is the Wolfgang Puck to my Guy Fieri, Mr. Lucas Rose.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
I just realized I shouldn't have gone with Wolfgang Puck because you don't really cook, you bake.
Yeah. But I mean, he makes like all those gadgets and stuff, right? So I mean, something in there's probably gotta, or at least he has all those gadgets.
Oh, yeah, he's branded.
He's paid.
That's true. Speaking of chefs, if you recognize that voice, returning for probably, I don't know, the 7th or 8th time at this point, Food Network star, chef of heroes, heroes of chefs, ninja foodie engineer, spokesperson for South Dakota beef, eat the universe. I mean, I don't know what else you want to throw in there, but you know him and you demanded that he come back, and he much obliged. Chef Justin Warner.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be on the flagship cast here, especially after recording the intro for it. I hope that's not a spoiler for the listeners.
Oh, no, they've heard it. They've heard it the last couple of weeks, so people know that this was coming. I will say I looked up because I had to check, and you're easily the most frequented guest of the show in the 5-year span we've been going, but I looked it up, and your first appearance as of next month would have been 3 years ago.
Wow. Time really flies, huh?
Yes. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, man, it does not seem like that. And if you think in that span of time, this show is now up to episode 240. You were on episode 101 was the first one you showed up on.
Wow.
Million listeners we have now at this point. Over 1 million listeners at this point. You've gone on to do Guys Grocery Games, multiple judge appearances, multiple, participant victories there. You traveled the country in a Winnebago. You've now moved into a new location after leaving New York. You've helped design the Ninja Foodie. You've written 2 cookbooks since then. Eat the Universe launched into like full seasons at that point. Dude, what haven't you done at this point?
I don't know. I don't have my own game show yet, which is kind of a bummer because I've always liked game shows, and I would like to host a game show eventually. But that being said, I was actually just talking with my wife about this, that I feel as though I've gotten so much stuff done in the past couple of years and like lived so gosh darn hard, that maybe I should just, I don't know, like chill out for a minute and maybe do something more, how do I explain this? More tangible, something that's more, like take a course or get a degree in something or become a weatherman. I don't know, like
become a weatherman.
Yeah, just something else to kind of like, what if food stuff is no longer cool, or what if I get burned out? Maybe I want to be a weatherman. The weather is always going to be around, right? Regardless of pandemics, people are still going to need to know, like what's going on with that cloud over there, And I often find myself wondering, like, what's going on with that cloud over there? And so I feel like it'd be helpful to know those things.
You'd be able to answer your own questions. Well, I mean, you could always try for Lego Masters Season 2 once the pandemic's over. Maybe you could do something with that.
I'd love to be a guest on there because I think those builders are far better than I will ever be.
Yeah.
But I think a food-themed episode would be so awesome. Wonderful. And if you follow Lego's Instagram, man, they have some really creative stuff in there, like people building cocktails, but like in cocktail videos, stop motion cocktail videos out of Lego, and it's just like, boom,
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, at this point, though, you should, like you said, you've done a ton in the last couple of years. And reminder for everybody, as Justin says, take a course or get a degree. We have to remember, Justin's not a classically trained chef. That's the crazy part. Out of all you've done, it's been, by getting your hands dirty, really. It's not, nobody taught you. I mean, you've learned, of course, but you haven't been traditionally taught.
Yeah, that's weird. And it's weird to me sometimes to think that, companies like readily pay me for my insight on these sorts of things. But sometimes I think that, it's in the training that you start to like lose a little bit of your own way, of doing things. And I think that, when everybody's doing the textbook version of something, even the textbook version of pushing things forward, how do you get that outside information? And so really what I think, like Ninja, and spoiler alert, we got some more projects coming up with them. Ooh. But like Ninja as a company, I think they just call me in to kind of shake up their routines, because, as a corporation, you get into a routine and you get into a mode, and people want to see projects come to fruition because it means they all get to keep their jobs. And, if your goal is to make something, you want to see the end of it. But oftentimes, you get so wound up in the yes, let's make it happen, that you might make a mistake somewhere. Like the fact that competitive electronic pressure cookers don't have the surface area to brown 4 hamburger patties in the bottom, whereas the Ninja Foodie sure does.
Dude, I abuse my Foodie at this point. Like you encouraged me to get one, and I got one. I've used it ever since. Like even today, I was like, all right, let's do something in the Foodie, because it's way too hot here up in New England right now. The humidity is super high, so I was like, the Foodie doesn't irradiate that much heat, so it's easy to cook with. So I took hot dogs and I split them down the middle.
Ooh, I like where you're going with this.
And I stuffed them with sharp cheddar cheese.
Whew.
Then I wrapped it in bacon and I tossed it in the Foodie air fryer for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I bet it came out like this perfectly cooked, crisp everywhere, molten in all the right places, and you did nothing.
Exactly. It was
walked
glorious.
Away for 20 minutes. I love it.
Even my 5-year-old was like, Daddy, this is really good. I like this hot dog. And I'm like, all right, don't expect it all the time. But yeah, it was incredible. And you wouldn't think to do something like that. Like ever sit there and you think cooking has to be something that's hard, and it doesn't have to be. And I think that's kind of where your innovation and your like participating in Foodie is just thinking about the simple things in a different way to get better results. And I think that's why it works. That partnership works.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, man. My goal is to get people jazzed about the fact that if you have a kitchen, you have a place where you can be creative. If anybody's a fan of the work that I've done thus far, or my cookbook specifically, I look at cooking as being like, this endless edible Rubik's Cube, and like I'm never, ever going to get all the colors to line up perfectly. But sometimes you can get really close, and it sounds like you got awfully close with that hot dog today.
It was good. But before we get too far in the food world, because we don't like to only talk about food, we like you to be able to express your other hobbies here. So let's talk a little about video games, what we've been playing.
Yes.
So I'll go first. I don't have much to talk about, but Lucas and I actually overlap with one of them. So I'll go first. I'll transition to Lucas, and we'll end on you, Justin, because I think I can speak to what you've been playing if I know, because you asked me for a recommendation, and if you've been playing that, we can talk about that for sure.
It's true.
First thing I actually just released my review of was the remake of Destroyal Humans. Came out. So I wrapped that up this past week. For those of you not familiar, Destroyal Humans was a game initially on the PS2 where you play as an alien Crypto, and it's basically like an early primitive Grand Theft Auto, but you're a space alien instead. So you wreak havoc in a sandbox, you hop in your saucer and blow up neighborhoods, everything like that. This remake, I will say, is done quite well. THQ did something smart. They took a dead franchise. I would have loved to have a new sequel. They slapped a new coat of paint on the old one, and visually looks really great. The grass environments looks way better than it used to. Colors pop fantastically. The hiccups, though, and you can read my full review, gamesreviews.com, is the repetitive nature of the game is still there. Because we have to remember it's a PS2 game that they just updated the graphics on, nothing else. So it still has a lot of repetitive nature. You're repeating the same kind of missions over and over again. And Lucas, that audio issue I told you from the demo, still there. So the issue, Justin, was they used the original voice clips from PS2.
Oh boy.
So
were they like .wav files, right?
Exactly. So it was super compressed, and I was playing with headphones on, so it's probably even worse in that regard. It just sounded really old and dated. But the problem is Crypto's leader, Pox, is voiced by the same guy who does Invader Zim. So I freaking love his voice acting, but everything else sounded really bad because it just sounded like such compressed audio that it wasn't great. So for those of you that remember the game, it's definitely worth playing and revisiting because it was fun. That sandbox mode of just being able to tear up the neighborhoods and towns, steal some cows, probe some people, all good fun there. But if you're new to the series and haven't played, I would say wait for a major sale because it unfortunately doesn't age as well, other than the visuals are really good. The second game, which I actually got to play with Lucas briefly, is Rogue Company. So I don't know. Have you heard of this one, Justin?
I have. I saw it flash up on the Epic store the other day, and I also heard that maybe it's coming to Switch. Is that correct?
It is actually. So the game is currently in closed beta. You can buy like founders packs to get access to the game now, but it will be free to play when it leaves beta. It's basically a 4 versus 4. I don't want to say it's like Overwatch, but like the formula is similar. You have your hero shooter. Each different character has a special ability that they can use. Not as like OP as something in Overwatch would be, or as essential. Like you can play the game without using your ultimate ever. But it's a tactical, 4 versus 4 matchup where either you try and control an area like King of the Hill-esque, or you plant a bomb and you have to detonate a bomb in an area before your opponents disarm your bomb and basically wipe your squad out.
It's like Overwatch meets Counter-Strike is the way I look at it.
Yeah, and that's FPS. First person.
Third person. Third person. Yeah.
Third. Okay. Curious. Interesting.
So looks like Fortnite. You have the over the shoulder kind of look.
Got it.
Fortnite does, but there's a unique cast of characters. I think this is like 12 or something that you can unlock in this beta. So they all have unique like playabilities. Like I like to play as Glitch, who he's like a hacker who, if you have the big player, what's the name of the tank? Is it Anvil, Lucas?
Anvil,
the big guy. So he can drop down this massive shield that kind of like blocks all the bullets and stuff like that. Well, if I play as Glitch, I can kind of watchdogs the game and basically you hack his shield and it'll actually cause it to explode on him and allow your team to kind of just rush through. And there's a couple people that can put like landmines around that I can disarm those as well, make them blow up, or I can actually hack the opponents, which cause them to kind of like glitch and they can't move for a minute. So we can just kind of rush them and take them out. But yeah, it's a lot of fun for a beta game. It seems pretty promising. If the player base is there or it continues to be there, I think it's fun romp, especially if it's going to be free to play, is even better. But yeah, it looks pretty promising, and I think it'll only get better from here. But I just kind of want to see what other game modes they have. They're going to add additional things in there. It seems ripe for like a battle pass kind of thing because there are cosmetics and stuff that you can unlock. So I think it's going to take that Fortnite formula there, but it plays more like Counter-Strike than anything else.
Curious. Well, I'll have to check that out because I'm a big Overwatch junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I haven't played a ton of Overwatch as of late, just simply because there hasn't really been a whole lot of change to it or update to it that's drawn me back. Because otherwise I'm just going to play the same thing over and over, which I love. It's a perfect thing, but it seems like that might be able to scratch like that mini tactical itch that I occasionally have. So yeah, I'm going to have to check that out. That sounds great. Do you know if it's going to be cross-platform? Because I think that's been... Oh, it is
already. Lucas, you were playing on PC, right, Lucas? Or
yeah, but I also read somebody said that you don't get matched with somebody on PC unless you have somebody in your party that's on PC. So if I'm playing on Switch, I'll only get matched with other console people. I don't know if that's going to stay that way, but
it probably will. Because Fortnite does that now too. Fortnite does the same thing where you can partner with people on PC, but it won't automatically drop you on PC unless you have somebody in your party that's on PC.
Yeah, because that mouse and keyboard.
Yep. Yeah.
It's so annoying. I'm the only person with a gaming PC that I regularly play with. So it's basically my wife, one of my friends. So it's bad because I'm the only one on PC. So I force my my wife, who's just there to fish, and my friend who's competitive but on a PS4 into this lobby of PC players, and we only have 3 of us. So it's the ultimate sweat fest. It's the worst.
Oh yeah, but no, it runs pretty well because Luke was on PC, I was on Xbox. Was Jason playing on Switch when we played? So we were playing on 3 different consoles at the same time. We were playing together, and it worked well. We didn't have any glitches or anything. Voice chat we didn't do, but we could because we could just use like Discord or something like that for it. But yeah, it seems to be pretty promising, and I think it'll hopefully get better with time. But yeah, it seems pretty cool off the bat. And the unique thing you have too is the better your team performs in each round, you'll get more cash. And in between each round, you kind of go back into your drop ship and you can upgrade your weapons. So you get $20,000. You can spend it to upgrade your machine gun, or you can switch to your sniper rifle for this round, or you can buy extra grenades or special stealth abilities. So you get that kind of dynamic thing where you can change your gameplay style in between rounds if something just wasn't clicking for your team.
I like that. There was a game that was in beta for a little bit. I forget what it was, but it was a what do you call it? A battle royale game, but it was very like 80s or like 90s themed, and cash was the main thing. And so when you killed somebody, you didn't get their gear, you got all their cash. And the game disappeared. I forgot what it was called, but it was visually it was like super cool, and you could like ride BMX bikes and stuff. I forget it.
Huh.
I'll have to investigate that. We'll leave it in the comments below the video.
Yeah. Lucas, what are your thoughts on Rogue Company? Because that's all I've been playing this week of those two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really much of a competitively multiplayer person these days, but I had been missing kind of that, almost like I used to play a lot of NHL games, and I kind of miss that competitive sports game or shooter sometimes, but I just tend not to be very good at them. Or my biggest hurdle is the learning curve that it takes to get into something like Overwatch, where it feels like you have to play one character for a really long time or go through the whole roster and try to figure out, all right, who am I working well with? What is my play style here? I feel like with Rogue Company, some people I've read have said that it's a little bit bland, but I think in a way it kind of helps it with the coming in and kind of getting the lay of the land and not having such a steep learning curve, because you can come in and draw on just about any game that you've played before and not be out of your element here. I haven't had an experience where anybody was like, come on, man, what are you doing? You can't figure out what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. Toxic community, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Yeah. There's more people. Yeah, exactly. Once more people start playing, it'll be awful. But for now, yeah, it's very approachable, and I found that it was pretty easy to swap between characters and just kind of get a feel for it without feeling like I was completely lost, because that is the most daunting thing for me, is jumping into a new game and just getting owned the entire time. It's for me, it very much makes me just want to be like, all right, I'm just going back to single player games for a while now. But overall, yeah, completely positive impressions. Takes me back to my Counter-Strike days a little bit. And even with it being third person, it feels pretty snappy on PC, actually. Yeah. It's not like Gears of War, where I feel like there's so much weight and momentum to everything. It's actually quite a bit lighter than that, and it feels pretty good to play. So I'm looking more forward to playing more of it and seeing how the game develops and what they do with it. Because like you said, there's definitely stuff coming down the pipeline as far as changes and stuff. But
the simplicity of it, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't even think of that. Like, it's good to have a shooter game like this where there's not so much going on. So like, yeah, it might be bland when you compare it to something like Apex or even Fortnite to an extent, but you got to remember, and I mean, Justin knows, like, Fortnite got to a point where there was just way too much going on. You had the giant robots, you had golf carts, you had regular cars, you had this. It was just way too much going on. They scaled it back when they released the Chapter 2 or whatever. This seems to be like they're starting at a base thing where, yeah, there's bonuses, there's perks, there's ultimates, but it's not so crazy. It's not so hard to follow what's going on that I feel it's pretty accessible to really anyone that has played a shooter at all.
Yeah. It's kind of somewhere between Counter-Strike being like all you do is buy weapons and stuff, and Call of Duty, where you do have some perks and stuff, but nothing seems too overpowered right now. But I'm sure people will find a way to exploit something, I'm sure. So,
well, I like the idea too of it being a 4-man team. I sometimes with Overwatch, like 6 is just, I mean, it's 12 things happening.
That's a lot.
Each of them are different, right? Like, that's an awful lot to keep track of. And like, I can still follow the Overwatch League well. But even like, if I show that to like a normal human being, that they would be like, what is going on? Are you on drugs? How do you follow this? Because it's just so intense. And like, if you don't know, think about then how many like audio cues there are in a game like Overwatch. Like,
oh God,
it's got to be in like the multiple hundreds per match, right? Where you're hearing all of that stuff.
Noon.
Yeah, maybe I'm just getting old or something. I like 4 audio cues, damn it.
Yes.
Nice. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so what else have you been playing?
Oh yeah. So as far as anything else, I booted up that Grounded game that you talked about a little while ago. That came out a couple days ago as of recording today.
Yeah.
And mostly, okay, so again, I kind of wanted something that might be okay to play with my son in the room, because especially now he's with me a lot more often, even during the times I come downstairs to play something. So I was
is he afraid of bugs though? Because
not really. No.
Okay, good, because those spiders, man.
He likes some, and yes, the spiders. Okay, so we'll get there. Because,
okay.
Yeah, it took a little bit of a turn, sure. So Grounded is like a survival crafting game. It's in beta or early preview or whatever they want to call it. Basically early access, and it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in a backyard. So you're in this backyard and you've been shrunk for some reason that it kind of glossed over. I don't know if they have those like assets done.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Or it becomes evident as you play, but there's no cut scene that shows you like why you're suddenly tiny. And so you're in this backyard and you can kind of see in the after you've been shrunk, in the background, you see houses and really large trees and stuff. So you get kind of a lay of the land and you realize, oh, I'm in this backyard. And you go out and you start collecting stuff and getting crafting recipes and having to eat and drink to survive. And normally that would be a little bit daunting for me because we've seen a lot of that so far. That was, I don't know if it's still a trend, but that was a trend for the last few years, it seems like, but it looks really good. And, the first thing you notice are all of these insects kind of all over the place. And it's so alien, but familiar at the same time. So it's kind of intriguing in that way because you're seeing everything from a new perspective and it looks completely different. But then you're like, oh, I recognize that ant. I recognize that sand tick or whatever it is. And, they all behave pretty interestingly. They each seem to have their own sort of behaviors. For instance, the aphids. At first I was like, what is this little green thing? Yeah. But it skitters around and it's called an aphid and it will run away from you as soon as it sees you. Whereas the spiders, which are completely huge and just menacing and very scary looking, especially because the eyes of the creatures will turn red when they start attacking something, even if they're attacking each other. So even like you'll see a ladybug, which, oh, cute, it's a ladybug. But then all of a sudden its eyes turn red and it's making this awful like groaning noise while it attacks a worker ant or something. And you're just like, is this going on in my backyard right now? This is some horror movie stuff. What is going on? As my 4-year-old son is sitting right next to me being being scared of everything.
Just looking open mouth like,
he's like, I'm never going outside again. So we're playing this game and he is loving it at the time. And he's watching me craft stuff and kind of figure out what little story there is so far in this game. And so we're following kind of the tutorial / cues that they give you. And I stop for a second because I've collected a bunch of stuff. It's time to start crafting some stuff so I can get my inventory cleared out a little bit, upgrade my armor or whatever, get a weapon. And so I'm looking at through my inventory and I'm standing in front of this large oak tree and there's all these roots that kind of go in and out of the ground and create a lot of these almost like tunnels or overpasses and stuff. So I'm standing on the ground in front of one of these roots that are creating this type of tunnel thing. And I'm going through and I'm looking through everything. And all of a sudden I hear the noise of an insect that's creeping around because you can hear it and I've got the speakers going and everything. So you can kind of hear where they're coming from. And so I back out and all of a sudden out of this dark tunnel where this tree or root is, this spider comes charging out at me with red eyes and my son and I both just like, scream at the same time because we weren't expecting it. We're just have that creeping sense of dread. And so like this game can kind of be scary, even though traditionally it's not really what you would think of as being scary. But there are times where you get that tension of being hunted by these spiders, that it will turn night and all of a sudden you're left to like kind of hide out or else you're facing all of the nocturnal creatures that are hunting around the yard. And it becomes a completely different looking game at that point. And so, yeah, I don't know. It seemed a lot cooler than I thought it was going to be when I heard that it's this crafting survival game. There's these scientific elements where you find these laboratories and you can research some of the stuff that you pick up and you're learning about why there's these miniature laboratories in your backyard. So I'm kind of looking forward to some of the story content that will eventually come. And I think that mix of survival crafting game plus an actual story to kind of lead you along will be a nice change of pace, because I haven't seen too many games that have that, both of those things. Usually it's just like, it's an MMO that's survival crafting, and then you get No Man's Sky or that Conan game or Conan Exiles.
Oh God. With the Dawn sliders.
Yes. So there is multiplayer in this, but it's more of a 4-player multiplayer type game as opposed to 64 people in a server or whatever. So surprised by that one. And of course it's on Game Pass, so that makes it the entry a little bit easier there. The other game I've been playing, and I don't know why I chose to finally play this. So I got the game from the library. And to add into the many JRPGs that I have decided to start for whatever reason, I started Xenoblade Chronicles, the remastered version. I got it from the library, and I really just started it. I think I played less than 10 hours so
Wait a minute, you have a library where you can get games?
Yeah.
This is a thing.
Where do you live, bro?
Grand Rapids, Michigan. Apparently we have the best libraries out there and nowhere else, because I'm learning that nobody else really, some people have said they can rent like older games, but yeah, they have a complete library, if you will, of newer games. They always get the newest stuff in, and it's not always right away. For instance, I'm still waiting on something that just came out, a Switch game that just came out, but it's been a month, but they'll get it within the month of release, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel
it's a thing. If you research, Justin, because like we have it in New England as well. If you look at like, if your state has like the library network where they can ship like books back and forth, if you search, some of them will have games, maybe not the one closest to you, but another one will, and they'll transfer them to you to go pick up at your local branch. So if you look, it's similar to like how the movies work at the library when you see those things too, but some of them have games. It's not every library in my experience, but a lot of them have them, and it's hit or miss what they have, but it's a good way to pick up those games. You're like, hey, I'd like to play that, but I also don't want to spend $60 on it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
They feel my Switch library, basically.
Yeah, because exactly.
That's the only console I have, and it's like every game comes out at $60, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy every game at $60, but yeah, I've been very #blessed to be able to have that in my life. But yeah, I'm just started Xenoblade Chronicles, so I don't have much to say other than it feels very familiar, having only really played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and then coming to this.
Yeah.
Although I do think you know a game is good when you get to the armor vendor, very first shop in the game. You get there, you're looking through and trying to figure out, all right, what can I buy? Because it's an RPG, you're not going to get much. You get like wooden armor or whatever, nothing even made out of metal. But they did have a bikini, even though I didn't have a female in the party. You know it's a good game if you have a bikini available to you. So I purchased it because you never know when you're going to need a bikini, right? But I figure
it is beach season.
Exactly. There's going to be some other people in the party. I did try because I had to know, can I wear it? Can my male character that I started with wear the bikini? And sadly, no, you cannot wear it. Oh. So I had to keep it for the first female that joined the party.
Apparently the cool thing to do is you have to have Shulk run around in underwear the entire game anyway, though, from my understanding. That's what everyone tells me.
Oh, not just me doing that then?
No. I talked to Garrett from Nintendo Shack. I'm pretty sure that's the only way he played. Like every screenshot he posted was Shulk in his underwear. I mean, we see that in Smash too. So that's the thing. Apparently, it doesn't matter what armor you have. He just needs to run around in his underwear. Apparently,
it's true. You can switch it cosmetically to whatever you want it to look like. See? And I mean, that's what makes the most sense to me. If I was going to go adventuring, it'd be in my underwear because you want breathability, movement. Just makes the most sense.
I mean, that's how I do my adventuring now. So
right.
Exactly. So yeah, unfortunately, the problem is I started this after it's already due back to the library. So I don't know why I decided to start it now. But I figure with COVID and everything, they hold everything that you return for 96 hours. So they're not too worried about you got like people bringing things back in a timely manner. So I'm kind of like, well, maybe I can just fast track it and at least get enough into it to know would I purchase this game? Because I consider doing that with Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Right.
So
a kind of a benefit though is you get the save data. You know what I mean? So like if it saves to console as opposed to cartridge, you know, like which all of them do now, right? Like
pretty much, yeah.
I mean, that's great because then if you were to rent it or find it at a flea market or something like that, you know, you can come back in and pick up right where you left off.
Exactly. And in these games, it's not unusual for me to stop for maybe even upwards of a month and then come back to it. That's what I did with Dragon Quest 11. So
I've picked up and put down Dragon Quest 11 probably, I don't know, 25, 30 times.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Like
it's just like no time passed at all. You just come back to it, and well, that game has that really handy screen that tells you exactly what's been happening. Like it's a television serial. It's just like when we left off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. You're like, oh, thank you, game.
This ridiculous thing happened in Dragon Quest 11. Yeah.
Exactly. So, more JRPG journeys for me. So add it to the other backlog of things that I've started for whatever reason.
And won't finish. Yeah.
So that's it.
All right. So Justin, what have you been playing, sir?
Well, I'm going to give you like the big update, like since COVID, because my like gaming habits have had to change dramatically because of this. So I was in Mexico when Animal Crossing dropped, and also when COVID was like, you know, no longer a meme or something to make fun of. And so I was primed in that I was like nervous about internet connection and stuff when I was in Mexico. So I had everything downloaded and ready to go well in advance. And so, boom, I got Animal Crossing. I was prepared to stay in Mexico. We were in a beach town until infinity. It really didn't matter. And I was pleased because I had Animal Crossing. So no problem. So obviously I've spent a ton of time on Animal Crossing, but less so, I would say, in the past couple of months, simply due to the here, at least, it's not as hot as everywhere else, but in South Dakota where I live, you really got to take advantage of outdoor weather because it as quick as it comes, it goes away, you know?
Fair enough, yeah.
It could be snowing again in September. So I've been I haven't been playing as many games as I would like to, but at the same time, I've been, you know, doing like real life crafting and survival, which is kind of fun. Also in my backyard, no giant spiders, though. Well, some giant spiders, but no red eyes.
And hail, giant hail.
Yeah, giant hail.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, we get some real hail out here, and I put it live on my Instagram. People loved it. Anyway, so I started with that. I had been playing a ton of it. I obviously love Animal Crossing, and I love most Nintendo things. I think my only bummer about this, and I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but it's now become another one of those games where I only want to play it when there's a new mechanic released or a new patch, and then I'll dive back in, see how it affects the play style, and then, you know, I'll leave it alone, or, you know, pick it up on, you know, July 31st so that I can get the right bugs and fish that are going to leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like, I'm happy that it is now like it could potentially have infinite content if it wanted to, but it bums me out that there's no after you get certain things in the game, no spoilers if nobody's played Animal Crossing, after you get certain things in the game, you're no longer really rewarded for the time that you've put into it.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a hallmark of the older games, is that you really had to, like, if you wanted to get to, like, that was that damn axolotl psychiatrist, you know, in the last one, what was his name? Shrunk?
Yep.
Yeah.
Shrunk.
Yeah. If you get him, you know, you've pretty much put in so much time into that game. Right. And he's, even though it's kind of a weird, like, you know, getting the emotions from a psychiatrist who wants to be a stand-up comedian, you know, even though that is like completely bizarre, it was still a goal to look forward to. And now it's just like, okay, cool. Well, I'll just pick it up again when the season changes, or, you know, they just put Dream Suite in and now you can trip. Okay, neat. You know, I'll pick it up again.
Yeah.
So then, let's see. Of course, I've been playing a ton of Fortnite. I love the splash slurps in the summer. I think it really changes the mechanic of shielding and healing in the game. I think they should be permanent. I was pleased at the new season in getting rid of the spy stuff. The spy stuff started to get a little bit old to me. And just seeing Midas skins everywhere. Like, I think we all went to high school with a Midas or two.
Yeah.
And like, I just got tired of getting, like, you know, my like metaphorical books slapped out of my hand as I'm just weaseling around like, misty meadows. God, leave me alone. Here comes Midas, Anyway, he's still there too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I obviously that's kind of like my morning coffee routine is just getting owned in that. Then because everybody was like, "Hey, Last of Us 2, I was like, "Well, I haven't played Last of Us 1," so I played Last of Us 1. Beat it in kind of like a weekend. I didn't realize it was kind of that short of an experience.
Yeah, the first one is.
Loved it. I thought my wife would like it. She did not. It was too stressful. She didn't want to play it, but she liked watching it.
That's what I've heard too. Is there's a lot of significant others like watching, like almost like a movie-esque thing to watch the storytelling, but they don't want to play it. So the HBO series coming out should be attractive for most people, I think, too. So
I like that. I like that a lot. One thing though that I played it the remastered version on PS4, and I'm gonna get this. This is all gonna come around to the big game that I've been playing lately that I'm absolutely in love with. But there's something weird going on with like character modeling, and I remember this in Last of Us, but also in Horizon Zero Dawn, and I see it in a lot of games where the characters for some reason look like they're like sweating profusely. And I get how in the Last of Us that's appropriate, but like in Horizon, like you're like, if you're sweating, why are you like wearing furs and stuff? You freaks,
Yeah, everybody's wet. Everybody's always wet.
I don't understand that, and I wish it would go away because I found it to be very distracting when I was playing Last of Us 1. I don't know if that's so present in Last of Us 2, but it just kind of really clicked with me that this is like a trend of how people look, and I'm kind of annoyed by that.
Well, Last of Us 2 takes a good portion of Last of Us 2 is in Seattle. So you're just wet anyway because it's raining nonstop. So I guess it fits it a little bit better. There's a lot of water in the second one, so it might explain it. But yeah, everyone's still pretty sweaty and wet. Yeah, got
it. And I bet that adds to the uplifting storytelling. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a feel good game overall. Like really.
Oh boy. So yeah, I don't know that I'm actually going to play Last of Us 2 anytime soon. But I at least know that if I want to play it, I've got the background story for it, and I'm glad I played Last of Us 1. I also briefly here and there, and I don't know why this is, but what is it called? 51 Games Collection or something?
Clubhouse Games?
Yeah. Clubhouse Games, yeah. I freaking love Clubhouse Games. Right.
We talked about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
you convinced me to get it.
It is a perfectly serviceable title to have for your Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
I think that it is the kind of thing that maybe should have been installed on the Switch to begin with.
Yes.
But that being said, it's not that expensive. And it's also like the kind of thing where it's like, hey, Grandma, of these 51 games that I have, do you know any? Yeah. And like, it's not hard to pick up and play. And it's, I don't know, I like have no notes for what it is. Like, I thought the sound design in it is especially nice. The HD rumble is very gratifying. Like I now have a better understanding of how to play various card games. Hanafuda though, hell no, never gonna learn.
I still don't understand it either.
I guess I'm just dumb. I don't know.
I felt that way about President or whatever it's called because that was in the demo, and I'm like, I played the other 3 games. It was fine, 4 match or whatever they call it, Connect 4, and then I played this President, and I'm like, I'm just pressing buttons. Am I just not getting this? What is going on? Why do I not understand?
That's kind of what I like about it, though, is like maybe I could, if I want to, learn Hanafuda via this thing. Yeah. And then maybe I could play it with other people who know how to play the game via this thing. And I don't know of anything else out there that, especially as like I got it digitally, I don't know of anything else out there that is going to be like this old back pocket sort of thing that anybody can play. I'd say the closest thing to that is maybe like a Jackbox game,
Yeah.
But even that I feel like can get a little bit too risque too quickly. Like you don't want to play Jackbox game with your friends who don't cuss,
Yeah.
My God, so funny story. I played Jackbox recently because with the pandemic, we were able to play with friends. We host like these Twitch nights, and my 16-year-old daughter joined. Dude, I was embarrassed because she was dropping some things. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like that was you, like, you don't know what people are answering until it's at the end. And then I'm like, she'd answer something and she'd be laughing. I look over, I'm like shooting daggers. And I'm like, oh my God, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, the truth really comes out in that. My in-laws, who generally tend to be rather conservative, really let it all hang out in that game.
Nice.
Yeah, it gets wild. So yeah, there's that. Then I'm trying to think if there's anything else like a little in-betweener that I might have been playing. Oh, this is another one. It's in beta on Epic Store. I don't know why I wanted to play it. I just did. It's called Old World. I do know why I wanted to play it, because I wanted a game that I didn't have to have a good internet connection to play. It's just like a standalone game you can play. And it's like what they call, I guess, a 4X. And even though I'm a huge nerd, I've never played a 4X game before. And the thing that I liked about this is that it has like random historical events. And I just kind of enjoyed the, I don't know, I just kind of enjoyed the aesthetic of it. And I don't think that aesthetic is any drastically different thing than, Civ games or something. But I got my ass handed to me 3 times in it. And then I won with Egypt, and I was like, like it unleashed this like monster in me that just wanted to make deals and obliterate Assyria and like do all of these like global things. So like when the game ended, I was in the top position in terms of having been like the most advanced society, but I still wanted to annihilate everyone on the map. And so I think that's a sign of a good game, is that even though I had won, it's so fun to obliterate, and it's so fun to strategize, that it was great. I forget how many generations. And that's another thing, is you're not one ruler. You're constantly reproducing. And, you can end up with a kid who assassinates you. You can disown your kid.
Oh.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. I'm just scratching the surface of the complex stuff you can do there. Like, three plays into the game, I finally realized that, like, I can align with other computer players. I can sell any resources that I have. And so you can really kind of start to convert the things you don't have into the things you do have. And it's the smart balancing and conversion of your haves and don't haves to make stuff work. And so it's very addictive, very addictive. Finally, the game that I'm most excited about, and I think a lot of people are most excited about, Ghost of Tsushima. You texted me that you got to play it early for review, and I didn't know about it, which is dumb, because I should have known about it, because it's so very far up my alley, that, I really don't know. There are things that I could want more out of it. There are things that have absolutely blown me away. The fact that like I'll just leave the game like unpaused, just standing there. And I'm like, this is better. Like I have a Samsung Frame TV.
Oh yeah.
So it's like designed to have like ambient lighting where it doesn't necessarily look like it's powered on the whole time. I'll just leave the game unpaused, and man, the sound, the visual, it's every frame in that game is like so picture perfect. And so this brings me back then to the sweaty models. I think they did such a good job in designing the characters, the aesthetics, obviously, and that's all you're going to hear about it. Oh, that game looks fantastic. That's not an understatement. But I think the costumes in it are out of control. The upgrades of the costumes that you can get are so addictive to the point where like I've never wanted, like I don't really care about aesthetics. My wife, she'll only play Breath of the Wild in the chic gear because it's the coolest. She could care less about its like silencing benefits or whatever. Yeah. Me and I'm like, yeah, but if I combine the barbarian armor with the chic gear, I'll maximize, sort of stuff.
Min-maxing.
Yeah, min-maxing, exactly. So anyway, I'm just in love with the game. I think that there's not a whole lot that needs really to be said about it, but if you haven't played it, it's set in 1300s or maybe 1200 Japan. The Mongols are invading this little island called Tsushima, which is you can still go to. It's actually very close to Korea, and it's beautiful. And I think a lot of people have a lot of things to say about the historical accuracy of it, because there are some things that are very accurate and other things that are totally not. If anybody's ever played Okami, and you like the mythology in Okami, and you like the storytelling, and you like that moment when you're like, holy shit, Susanoo is like a real thing that, people in Japan care about. And like, the cricket, that's a real guy who wrote haikus in Okami. If you're into that stuff, this is like a pipe dream for you. There's not much. I'm only at chapter 1. I just finished chapter 1 because I just get distracted and don't really care a whole lot about the story. Although I will say there have been some critics that say that the main character is not. They're like, he's a boring protagonist. I'm like, excuse me. I beg to differ. There's a scene in the beginning, and I don't think this is a spoiler, but there's a scene in the beginning where if you're actually paying attention to the dialogue, which I don't know, is anybody paying attention to the dialogue, because I'm doing it all subtitles, all in.
Yep.
So Japanese audio, English subtitles.
Nice.
And I think that is the definitive way to play the game. You put the Kurosawa mode on, which is like a black and white, lower frame rate version. You put that on to entertain your friends or to just show off how cool the game looks.
Yeah.
But I think you play it in color, but only in Japanese. And that's how I played the Yakuza games. I don't even know if there's an English option in the Yakuza games. I don't care. But anyway, there's a moment in the beginning of the game where they're like, the wind is your dad and the song of the birds is your mom.
Yep.
And so, like, with interpretation, Jin, the main character, I mean, you can't see wind, but he as a protagonist can see wind, and the wind like tells him where to go. And like these golden birds, like they're only in Jin's peripheral.
Yep.
Is Jin nuts? I don't know. Like Jin seems to have no problem. Like, and they talk to him like, you really seem to enjoy that. And he's like, I swear to God, I don't, guys. I really don't. Really hate using the sword. Every time I think about pulling it out and butchering, an entire army of people, I hate it. But I actually think that and like a lot of Japanese cinema, I think it leaves a lot of motivation and interpretation of the character up to the viewer, and in this case, the player. And so I have really no bad things to say about it. Things I'd like to see in future DLC, and I don't know that they might be in the game. I haven't gotten to it. I'd love to see some, like a mini game somewhere other than the bamboo strike.
The bamboo, yeah.
But like, if I could learn Hanafuda in that game, whoo! It's already not historically accurate in a lot of ways. Maybe Hanafuda came many years later, but I feel like shogi might have been invented. I feel like Go might have been. Yeah. Anyway, whatever. It would be fun to just like, imagine you could challenge one of your murderous compatriots, into playing a game with you. You could set it up in this beautiful field of pampas grass. And that's another thing, just side note. So like last year I spent a month in Japan, which was mind altering. And really, it was like I got the firmware update for myself as a human being. And we were traveling in Sapporo, so one of the northernmost parts of Japan, and there was like this thing. It was like, hey, go check out this pampas grass, and I'm like, I want to go see that grass, and we didn't get to see the grass, but I got to see it in the game, and now I can hide in the grass in the game, and it feels great. And like I changed my outfit to hide in the grass, for whatever reasons. Anyway, I love that game. I'm glad you turned me on to it. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I think if this is around 1, and I think a lot of people have also said, and maybe I'm rambling, but I think a lot of people have said like, well, you've played a game like this before. And maybe you have, but here's the thing. I think that the combat in Ghost of Tsushima is far more rewarding, and far more validating and exciting to do than in, say, Breath of the Wild. I think that Breath of the Wild is beautiful. And obviously one of the greatest games of all time. But I think Ghost of Tsushima has learned a lot from games that are similar, and I think that they borrow just the right nuggets from a lot of them. I can't necessarily think of sword combat as being more gratifying. I think some of the sneaky kills are especially savage and brutal, and the fact that they change as your character levels up.
Yep.
I think there's just so much to love about it. And every encounter, man, they have the standoff where you're holding the triangle button.
Yep.
Never gets old to me. I don't know. Yeah, you can call it repetitive. Yeah, sure, call it repetitive. But like, there are plenty of things that are enjoyable yet repetitive. But I feel like that's just like kind of like maybe like game reviewer cop out,
And you don't even have to do that either, too. Like, if you choose to be like, I'm sick of standoff, you don't need to do it whatsoever. The game is great in letting you decide how you want to tackle the situation.
Yeah. And, I think that there maybe could be some improvements on some of the stealth stuff. But also, like, how stealthy can you be, in a game set in the 1300s? You're throwing a freaking wind chime at people. You want a cardboard box, snake, cameras to avoid. I don't. But they got hawks. I finally got to the place where they got hawks.
Oh,
basically, our cameras.
They're annoying.
Yeah, I love all the side characters. So far so great with that game, and I'm just so pleased that, especially that like a lot of Japanese game critics were like, "Shit, we should have made this."
Yep.
Like, wow, America did something right, like internationally, like, and we didn't really ruin anything.
Nope, it's true, and I mean, you're really going to see too, like the story and Jin's character does ramp up a lot after Act 1 is complete too. So you'll see it gets crazier. So I think you'll continue to enjoy the ride as you go along.
Well, there was a betrayal in it that I was specifically annoyed by and kind of deeply. I wasn't deeply, but like as far as a video game can affect me, I was like, well, that really sucks. I was very invested in there's a character, let's make that character's situation better, and then when that character betrays you, I was just not happy because I was excited about getting this stuff done and making it right. That's another thing, and I'm sorry, you can edit this out. But I love that the quests are divvied up. I love the menu organization of these things and the way that the skill tree is not just this like endless Yggdrasil of skills. But the skills are divvied up into certain areas that you can choose to focus on or not focus on, depending on your own strengths and weaknesses as a player. But I also love that the quests are divided up into almost like episodes and narratives. So once you encounter a character, you can kind of experience their entire character arc via their quests, all kind of in one go, and you can hunt them down. Versus, like, it annoys me in games where, like, let's say in Zelda you progress so far and then oh, there's that dude again, and guess what? He's stopped collecting this. He's collecting this. It's really, it gets I don't know, that just to me isn't as fun. I'd rather binge an entire episode of seeking revenge with an old lady in various locations.
Yep.
And that's, I think the last thing I will say is that I think the missions are delightfully episodic, where I feel like I could watch, if that was a 5-minute Instagram video or a 10-minute Instagram video, I feel like I could watch it and just be like, oh man, that was great. What a cool little episode of this character's never-ending quest to get stuff done.
Yeah, and that will continue too. Like as you go to Act 2, you'll still have those segmented story sections of revolving around those characters, and there may be some additions too to come along. But that theme goes all the way through the game, so it's not like you resolve it and it ends. That will go right through to the end of the game. So it's a great way to tackle the story, because you have like the side quests that have nothing to do with the main story. You're just doing the right thing by clearing out the Mongols. Then you have your sidekicks story components. Then you have Jin's main components that are going on, and it all just fits together so well. And it really doesn't matter the order that you do them in either. Like that, it all just ties together beautifully in each act as you complete it.
Yeah, I feel like another thing that people don't really talk about is, so far, like, I've loved the difficulty. Like, I want to challenge some foot soldiers, that are ill-equipped and like probably don't need to be challenged. Mow right through them, absolutely no problem. But yet, every now and then you'll get a guy who's just like, or you'll put yourself in bad position where you're just getting savaged by a bunch of people because you screwed up and you like didn't realize there are 4 other guys waiting in the wings.
Yep.
And you die. And I feel like it's a nice feeling to feel practically omnipotent with that sword, but you make one false move and you're toast.
Yep.
And I think that's a very rewarding kind of gameplay thing. Brooke today, my wife, was had quite a few questions about a recipe while I was trying to show down in a one-on-one samurai battle. And I was like, you see when the dot is red, I cannot avoid that attack, lady. Okay? Okay? I need to dodge it. Like, and if I don't, I'm going to be in bad position. Okay? So if you could just see if there's a dot before asking me the question, I would really appreciate. Finally, I ended up beating the guy. She was sympathetic, and she also made me enchiladas because she's an amazing person.
There you go.
Yeah. Lastly, okay, and I know I'm rambling about this game,
no,
but
it's all right.
I wish there was more of a food aspect, and they touched on it briefly in a way that I thought was delightful. Everybody's starving because the island is invaded, and it's an island, so islands in general are kind of tough to live on because you've only got what you've got, and you've only going to get what you're going to get traded.
Yeah.
So anyway, I like that food is kind of a part of this, and that people say, "Oh, we're getting our resources stolen." But at one point, you're tracking some like a family or some thieves or something, and they're like, "Look, rice, millet," and I'm like, "Millet? Like, we don't talk about millet. Like, a lot of people don't know what millet is. Like, what are we going to talk about next? Sorghum? Oh boy." And so I think that some aspect of food would be like a little bit more exciting. Seeing Jin eat something, or seeing the other characters eat. You'll see the occasional like barbecued feral hog in a Mongol camp.
Yeah.
But I think that if there's Ghost of Tsushima 2, which there's not going to be, I don't think it's going to have to be Ghost of some other island. Or maybe you're raising your son tragically in some other made-up invasion. But anyway, I think I would like to see that, and I think it would just kind of flesh out the world a little bit better, because Japan's culture and tradition is so rich, even in like 1200s or 1300s or whenever it's set, that you could do it.
I mean, there's plenty of sake references. You get that throughout the entire game, but that's about it. That's sake and rice. That's apparently all they eat and drink. So,
yeah, I guess. I don't know. But I'm nitpicking at that point, and it's only for my own selfish benefit.
Hey, that's what we do. We're all selfish here.
Right?
The theme of the show. All right, so let's transition into something that's kind of been big news for you. And that's I have this right here.
Oh, you got it. Look at it.
I
so
got
shiny.
It. It is.
So
it's
shiny.
So shiny. So
you
shiny.
Powder that book. Yeah, I wrote that book. It's called Marvel's Eat the Universe, the official cookbook, and it is recipes and more from the show of the same name, which you can find on Marvel.com and on YouTube. It's put out by Inside Editions, and it's available wherever fine books are sold. And if you're not familiar with the concept of the show Eat the Universe, the idea is that Marvel says, "Hey, make food about superheroes." And I say, well, if I'm going to do it, we're not going to be making Captain America cupcakes, And this has been a fundamental thing with me. And the reason that I love working with them is because I said I want to make real food first and have it tie to a Marvel character second. I want to see where the world of food goes when it's influenced by these incredible characters. And what can we learn about food through the characters, and what can we learn about characters through the food? Classic example, and the current most photographed and criticized recipe, at least on Amazon in the review section, is my Captain America recipe. Yeah. It's not a cupcake, my friends. No. It's a beef tongue terrine. Because Captain America's the man out of time. It's all about rationing. And you can learn how to cook beef tongue. If you've never had beef tongue, it's one of the most delicious things on earth. In Mexico, it's kind of like El Rey de los Tacos, kind of like king of tacos, arguably. And yet, and it is perfect for Captain America, because that's the kind of thing that my grandparents, maybe not, the TikTokers' grandparents, but my grandparents actually ate, and my grandma actually knew how to prepare. And I guarantee you, Steve Rogers would be like, beef tongue terrine, let's go.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like that's the biggest thing, is like we see a lot of these different cookbooks come out that are themed after things. And actually, your first appearance, we talked about it, about that episode was named Wookiee Cookies, because you brought up like, I'm not just going to make a brown cookie and call it a Wookiee cookie because it just looks like that. You did not, and continue even on the web series, to not take that approach. Like you didn't take Black Panther and do something, well, here's this black food, so it's Black Panther. It's like, no, you did goat. Like,
yeah, well, he's East African. I don't know. Yeah, to me, this is more, maybe it's more of a textbook, but I think what a lot of people are looking for, or what I think a lot of people are thinking this book is going to be, is Captain America cupcakes, and I don't know, what do you even make for Black Panther? That's the thing for me, is like, I don't understand what I could make other than East African cuisine, given that's where Wakanda, the fictitious nation, is situated. I can't get vibranium infused rhino. I probably wouldn't cook it anyway. So anyway, the book though is doing really well, and the people that love it seem to love it. And I think that the great thing about this book is that it visually and in terms of the text, it's so striking that it's one of my favorite kind of things. Like you have the potential to learn about how to cook goat, and you're doing it via this amazing medium like Black Panther,
Exactly. And I showed Lucas the book a little bit before we went on the air, before you hopped on, and he even said it perfectly, because I said the composition of the book, like the pictures are super vibrant, the colors pop, you have the Marvel artwork to go along with it, which is fantastic. And he brought up the point that, like, I was like, the texture and the pages are even different. It's a coffee table book as well. So yes, it's a cookbook, but it also passes as like, you could just leave this on your table and guests will come over, flip through and be like, this looks awesome. First thing Lucas called out was the donuts.
Yeah.
On the front, I was like,
donuts.
Yeah, it's like it jumps right out at you, which is just awesome. And like you said, you certainly didn't cop out in the web series too. If anybody hasn't seen it, Eat the Universe, you can find them all on YouTube, Marvel.com. You don't just cop out and say, okay, here's Deadpool, I'm gonna do something red. Like you don't follow that recipe. You think about what the character does, where their inspirations, where they come from, their origins. Phoenix and Cable with the chicken and the egg dish, like that's perfect. Like who would think of that? And that's lends to your creativity. And I was telling Lucas too beforehand, I don't remember if we said it on air or this was like an off the recording conversation we had. I suggested like a year ago that, like, hey, they should take all the Eat the Universe stuff and put it in a cookbook, and you kind of like wink, wink, nod, nodded that maybe something was happening, and sure enough, a year later, I'm holding it in my hand. So it just makes sense that this is something that's just been so great to see, and it's not just a cookbook of Captain America cupcakes, as you said, and the web series doesn't just cop out and do simple, easy things that, let's be honest, anybody could do.
It's like party favor food is what it makes me think of. It's like what the people who just want to make a regular cupcake that's like blue on the inside, and then make a Captain America shield on the top. It's like the people who are complaining about that are looking for the blog post that you'd find from some mom or something who decorated that cupcake, which is fine. But I always get annoyed by people who don't know what they're getting into. It's like, well, I think it makes it very clear that you're not finding 50 different ways to decorate a cupcake in this book. That's another book. This is something elevated and a little bit more than that.
Well, and I won't even say that one is better than the other. I'm simply saying this was my agenda, and I think it's the reason that the show works well. And I think it's the reason why the book is, like you said, it could be a coffee table book. I mean, making the white fish for Wilson Fisk, whose literal last name means fish.
Fish.
Like I don't actually think that have any talent when all I'm doing is making white fish for a guy whose last name is Fish, and he dresses in white. This to me seems completely obvious, putting avocado on it because of the avocados at law joke. Anyway, I love the book. I'm pleased with it, but I got to give a shout out to One Inside Editions for putting it together so beautifully. They do a lot of pop culture cookbooks, and I have a couple of them, and I think that they really broke the bank in terms of the design on this. And then also Marvel was brilliant in that they hired a photographer to take pictures and to document the making of the dishes, hoping that someday we would be able to make a cookbook. And look, now we have all these incredible photos to match all the incredible artwork. And it's just a real honor, it's just a real honor and a real pleasure to be associated with it. And it's like, I can't wait until COVID's over and we can start shooting again, because I think there's never been a better time to be a Marvel fan. Some of the books that are coming out right now are just mind blowing. And I can't wait. Like, there's a new series called Strange Academy. It's kind of like, it's exactly what you would think. And like, I can't wait to make like Doctor Strange or, just that sort of weird, trippy kids food. Like, I can't wait. Like if you want the kids food, cool, I'll have it. It's going to be orbs and blobs and like, how to make homemade gushers that look like eyes.
Oh God.
Yes.
So that this actually kind of goes to the first question here. So, and you touched on it a little bit and how you don't necessarily think of, I'm going to do a Captain America cupcake. So what exactly is your process? Do you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do a dish on, the Scarlet Spider. So what would that be? Or does Marvel come to you and say, here's a list of characters we'd love to see you do something with? Can you come up with something? Like, what's the process for creating these recipes?
So it's tough sometimes. Other times it's very easy. Other times it's very tough. Scarlet Spider might be tough, right? So Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, right? Clone. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's kind of right. I would say those are like the top two things that you would say about Scarlet Spider. Mm-hmm. I can't even really think of a third thing because he's pretty much Spider-Man, but Ben Reilly and clone from Peter Parker. So we got to do what we got to do. So what are we going to do with that? You got to think, you got to dive into the comics. You got to look into the source material. You got to figure out, all of the things that we associate with food, you can kind of pull out of a character. So like location is a big one. It's a fictitious nation, Wakanda, but we do know that it's in East Africa, and I can roughly approximate what I know and what other people have reported about the food in that area. It doesn't hurt that I've been to East Africa. I might be able to do something with the idea of cloning. I know that sounds strange, but you can clone plants. What if I cloned a tomato plant and I don't know, made pizza? I don't know. It's tough. You really have to kind of pick and choose your battle of what it is that you want to be the defining characteristics. So you just got to keep reading source material until something sticks. Sometimes it's very easy. Silver Surfer, let's make surfer food. Let's dive into the comics and figure out if Silver Surfer ever ate. He did once, and he had clam chowder. Cool. We're making clam chowder tacos, boys. Yep. Let's go.
And that's a real thing, folks. It's in the book.
Yeah. Other people are very difficult. Frank Castle, Francis Castiglione, the Punisher. Wrong side of the law, murderous, loves guns, is gruff, probably doesn't shave as much as he could. What do we got to work with there? So we got to dive into Italian roots. We got to look at the Garth Ennis run where he's in Vietnam. Okay, we're gonna make Italian wedding pho. Mm-hmm. Okay, like we've done something, and we're now learning about other facets of the character that I don't think a lot of people understand. That like part of the backstory of Frank Castle is that he was not just like he lost his family, but he was like he's always been this like war-torn person that's seen the horrors of war, and that's part of it. I don't know, man. It's so that is the process. If that seemed like a process and it seemed scattered and seemed disorganized, it's because it is. But ultimately, like I think, imagine how hard it would be to create a new Marvel character. Think about all the things that have been done. You don't want to do something derivative. If you want to reinvent a Marvel character, I've got it easy in working with food. It's the people that come up with new characters that are they've got the hard job. But I will say, lastly, that my job gets easier and easier the more culture is brought into the comics universe. So like Agents of Atlas, and like having like Southeast Asian heroes, that rules. Like, I love that. That's so great. So like that makes my job so much easier because then I can just kind of explore that world. But yeah, sometimes it's really tough. But I'm pleased, like a lot of people don't know Ben Grimm is Jewish, so we'll make a Yancey Street Kugel that's bright orange, and looks like it's covered in rocks. It's actually dried apricots, common thing to put in a Kugel. Hot diggity, we're all learning.
So you have the show Marvel Eats the Universe, and you're showing us not only how to make some of these dishes, which as a visual learner, I can appreciate, but you've got some guests on the show, and there's this aspect of the show where it just feels like you're hanging out with your friend. It just feels like you're chilling, you're making something together. It's not just okay, now we're going to set the oven to 350 degrees, whatever. Who's been your favorite guest so far? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh man.
Calling you out.
That's really tough. Oh man, Chris Gethard was really cool and fun, and I felt as though when Chris was there, there was like no real nerd boundary that I could overstep. Or something. Obviously, the Flatbush Zombies was incredible. Kevin Smith. I've idolized Jean Grey, who I actually consider to be a friend. since I was young. She's one of the most talented, just period human beings on earth. To pick a single favorite, man, it's so tough. It really is so tough. Even just having like somebody who's like a colleague, like Adam Richman, like thanks for coming on my nerd show. Like it's so cool. I don't know, anybody that really just wants to hang out in the kitchen and talk with me, I'm like, what's wrong with you? So I'm really just honored by anybody who can do it, especially when it's a Marvel kitchen and I'm leading the show, making terrible puns over and over and over.
No. They're not terrible. I told Lucas because we are known to do, although this episode we haven't really had any. Lucas and I do puns a lot. So I was like, if we start rolling, I was like, Justin will jump right in because he has some of the best, whether it's on that show, like anything you're on, you're always, Triple G, you're always making the puns.
Well, it is the lowest form of humor. So, if you got it, flaunt it.
Fair enough. So is there anybody that you'd like to have on the show that you haven't been able to land yet?
I mean, it'd be amazing to get somebody from the MCU proper. But whatever, we had Lyrica Okana from Runaways, which I loved. It is just like a great, I say it's like Gossip Girl hero show. I don't know. It's like this great teeny, I didn't know. It's like kind of like Riverdale or something. Like it's got this like very teen angst kind of vibe to it that I love. I don't know. Like, we had CB, the editor in chief of Marvel, on, which is like, as a kid who, idolized Marvel Comics and always read the editor in chief name, never really thought you'd be one-on-one with them ever. I'm trying to think, that this is kind of maybe rude or bad, but in my history, like I have a long kind of history of serving celebrities. I was a waiter for like 15 years before I broke into food television and cooking. And so like, having served very intense celebrities, I don't really get the like, oh my God, I'm fanboying that they're on the show. I'm just like, well, you chose to be on the show or your agent did. So
yeah.
I don't know what to do other than make my show. If you hate it, I guess you can walk off. I don't know. I said walk off. Walk
hard. Maybe that helps make the episodes feel more friendly, I guess, like you guys are hanging out, because then you kind of feel like you're on the same level. I mean, I think you would want to have that approach to you don't want to have them come on and then be, you're just gushing the whole time. That's a weird dynamic. You know what I mean? It's one thing to have an appreciation, but.
Yeah. So like we had Daniel Breaker from Hamilton. He plays Aaron Burr in Hamilton.
Yeah.
The current run. And I like fanboyed on behalf of the fans. I was like, oh my God, from Hamilton, everyone. And he was, I think, happy that I was not actually like a fan rabid person who was acting weird.
Yeah.
He was just a guy who understood. He actually is an incredible cook. His Instagram is lit. I think he wanted to talk about food, and I think I wanted to talk about food. And if we overlapped in terms of like our profession, but like, God, think about, I don't know if it's like this where you guys are, but we have a lot of New Yorkers on the show. And I think New Yorkers get real tired of saying, what trains they live and what they do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
People want to talk about food. People eat. People like food. Marvel Comics. Like, if you haven't seen a Marvel Comics movie in the past 10 years, what have you been doing?
Yeah, right.
You probably also haven't had pizza, or some other very common activity.
Yeah. With all these guests you got on the show, or even without a guest, do you have any good behind the scenes stories? Because there's gotta be some behind the scenes stories in there.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of like what I can actually talk about.
You can not name names. That'd be okay.
I accidentally busted one guest to an agent who, like, for some reason the agent was monitoring the guest's health, and I don't ask these questions,
right.
But the agent was like, "Where's the guest?" And I was like, "I think the guest is doing something very detrimental to their health at this juncture." I just called it like what it was, because like the person, it was like a habit of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, well, they're not supposed to be doing that. And I'm like, guest, I'm very sorry that I just busted you to your, mama gent over there.
I just narked you.
Yeah, I just narked you. I feel really bad. And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. I actually don't care. But yeah, that I would prefer if, you don't tell my agent when I'm doing that. And I was just like, I don't know. I thought you guys were also rock and roll,
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, man, we save a lot of the outtakes, and you'll see them in like some of the hype things on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll make an outtake reel. I think some of the funnest stuff is when it's actually no guest and I'm just messing around with my producers or like being rude to one of my best friends and constant partners in culinary crime. Her name's Erin Barnhart. She helped me with my first book, my second book, and Eat the Universe. If I just hit a brick wall, I'll throw the ball at her and bounce ideas off her. Anyway.
Nice.
Yeah, we did this one thing where I was doing like kind of like my we call them stand and stir cooking shows host, where I was being very polite and talking softly, but I was kind of also channeling She-Hulk. So whenever something got me a little bit angry, I would kind of spaz out. And I said in the video, okay, like, now we'll liberally apply the egg wash. And my culinary producer, Aaron, is like, Chef, it's not really, reading is very liberal. So I'm smacking this thing with the brush. And like, is that reading is liberal for you, Chef? Just silly stuff. It's such a fun set. And like, I just quit vaping, which is kind of a big deal for me, hence the oral fixation toothpick. But like while they're repositioning cameras or, moving the lights around or something like that, like, it became like this joke that I would just go hang out in Vapor's Alley, which was just literally a chair in the corner of the set where I would just sit there and vape and check Twitter and answer texts. And like the whole team was like, Chef, if you want to head to Vapor's Alley, like we'll see you in a few,
it's like your green room essentially, right?
Yeah. But like we didn't have a green room for me. We had it for the guests,
Right.
Just the silliest stuff. It's just the show. I think that the reason the show is such a fun success is because it's such a fun set, and because we never ever took ourselves too seriously, except when we had to. Like we realized like season 1, maybe we could have better looking beauty shots of the food. Guess what? Season 2, we do.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so just I don't know. Marvel's they've entrusted so much to me, and they've put me with such good people. It's great. It's really great.
So let's say Marvel Eat the Universe, 10 years from now ends and it's done. No more episodes.
Okay.
And you're offered the ability to do the same thing for any property, whether it's a game, movie universe, TV universe. What would it be?
My gut, which is probably true, is the manga and anime Toriko. It's kind of a deep cut. It's an old cut. It's about a guy who hunts fantastical beasts and eats them in an attempt to make his full course meal, which is like the greatest things that he's eaten in his life. Like that's his lifelong dream, is to figure out his top 12 dishes in order. And so like it's insane, but like a crossover episode with One Piece, he's like on an island with these pigs that are actually self-barbecuing. And so you have to knock them out. So like the whole island smells like barbecue because of these pigs that live there that are slowly cooking themselves. And you have to knock them out in one hit. Otherwise they'll get angry and overcook themselves. Yeah. And if you watch that show, it just gets more and more and more fantastic. And, like places where salmon roe grows on trees like grapes. To me, it like that's my dream. That is my thing. I kind of was talking to myself today about like maybe potentially being burned out with food. And well, this is one of the reasons that the Marvel show is so great, is that I get this character that comes into my life and forces me to cook in a different direction that I would normally be cooking, or wherever my own taste buds go. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of crave the unknown. And I think that show, even though it's fantastical and I have no ability to create a self-barbecuing pig, in what ways can I take that information? And also there are like 60 episodes and hundreds and hundreds of, there's one thing called Century Soup where this is insane. It's a glacier that froze all of these animals and vegetables and fruits in itself. And every 100 years, exactly one bowl will melt out of this. And so it creates this century consommé of ingredients that have been trapped in here. And like, what would that mean to me? What would I do? And so it's almost impossible. But if I can do Marvel for 10 years, I can probably figure out how to do
Honestly,
that.
You'd figure out something where somehow it melts halfway through and the flavor profile changes as you're eating the dish or something like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that show is really good. And if you're a food enthusiast, like I cry every time because the show introduces itself with this like, I am an announcer and the show is beginning.
Yeah.
Welcome to a place where salmon roe grows on trees. And rivers of sake flow. This is the gourmet age. And like part of me is like, that's where I should be.
You're like, I want to be there.
I want to go. Yeah. That's the internet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like I would be. And the funny thing is the superhero himself is not a cook. He just really likes to eat. So he's got this little scrappy nerdy cook with him. And I know that I would actually probably, as much as I want to be Tariqa, the big buff guy, who can like knock out the pig in one punch. And his signature punches are fork, knife.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's so lit, man. I love it. And he'll like he'll get swallowed by an animal in order to process its organs. And then he'll like exit the animal with its organs. God. So good. It's so good. Anyway, I'm done. That's what I would like to do.
Oh man. Well, let's take it from the fantastical world of anime to back to the real world, the dark, bitter real world. And you touched on this a little bit when at the beginning of this segment, if you will. How's COVID really affected the projects that you're doing? How have you had to adapt? What is it like?
Well, it's been a mess. I did a project that required me to travel to LA and I got exposed. So I had to go into lockdown for 2 more weeks. Marvel has been great about giving me some digital opportunities. For example, if you saw that the box lunch line, I got to model it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It is real. I am a model now for box lunch. Well, that was insane. So they had to like find a local photographer who had the qualifications to work with Box Lunch / Hot Topic, their sister companies. And then, he had to travel to my place and then we had to have X distance and we could only shoot it at my place because no other like food things were doing any shooting. It's been a mess and I've been doing a lot of podcasts and Zoom info just to kind of keep people pumped about life. But in general, like it's sad. Like Guy has had to do all sorts of programs and I think we'll probably do like an at-home version of Grocery Games. I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do Grocery Games in 2 weeks. That's obviously not going to happen. So I don't know. I'm very fortunate that like, the contract for the book was signed last year. So now that the book is out, like, cool, paycheck, like a couple of projects that I did with Ninja, now hold on 1 sec. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can hang out. They might be able to see you in the mirror. Can they see you? Yeah, they can.
Yep, I can see her.
Not wearing.
I saw a yellow shirt.
Great. Anyway, that was my wife, everybody. So yeah, the projects with Ninja were, cooked up, 8 months ago. So staying alive with that. Brooke is fortunate to work at a restaurant that, is distance tables and mask on service. So she's got a little pocket change coming in. But realistically, like I'm so blessed to have purchased a house in South Dakota, a place where it's some of the fewest cases and it's some of the cheapest living. And, it's just been weird and it's just been depressing, like some days I'm not the kind of person who wakes up and says, oh, another day. I'm like the kind of person who wakes up and says like, what are we going to annihilate today? Like what are we going to do to challenge ourselves and challenge society? But no, we're not saying that anymore. We're really saying, oh, another day.
Do you think maybe you've talked a little bit about how that has kind of, you felt like maybe food might be something that you move on from for a little bit. Do you think maybe that's kind of affecting that a little bit? I don't know how it couldn't be, you know what I mean? Because you can't, there's like no freedom.
Bro, I'm so tired of doing dishes. Like I am so tired of doing dishes. I actually used to like dishes as like a nice little like morning routine. But when you're doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner at home, you know, and like think about this, like if you have an office you go to, you might take your food there and eat it there, or you might get a lunch somewhere if you're working. And even though I don't have an office job or that sort of thing, I still might like, you know, take my gal out for a snack for lunch one day. We might go out for dinner the next and what have you. The dishes are just unrelenting. And also bad thing about South Dakota, you know, it's not like being in New York or the East Coast. Like, you know, our Asian market is super small and we're blessed to have one small Asian market. But like, it's just tough to get a variety of food. And when you're cooking for yourself and it's 90 degrees out, you know, you get mouth bored pretty darn fast. So, you know, I know everybody's doing sourdough. I was doing sourdough way before, just because I was bored in winter in South Dakota. Like, there's not a whole lot of life. So I was like, oh, I'll just create it. So I started making sourdough in like October of last year. Then I realized that the sourdough was doing its thing. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to buy some kimchi crocks and start fermenting stuff. So now I'm just like inundated with pickles and kimchi and any number of things. I've just got like barrels of brine, just like brine. And it's great because, you know, every time I do it, it kind of tastes a little different and I can kind of examine the process. Then I got fermenter jugs. So now I'm just making my own booze and I have too much of that too. And the cool thing about it is I think that, and this is really my latest passion, is that one, it takes forever. So you like monitor it every day and like, are you working? You're working. I see you, my child. So that makes a little bit of a breakup in the day. But also the things that I'm making are all wild fermented. So I'm not using like brewer's yeast and I'm not sanitizing anything. So I'm tasting things that I otherwise could not be able really to take because commercially they're just not available. My wife's gotten really into natural wines, which follow a lot of the same principles, which is just kind of like let nature do its thing and see what happens. And like ultimately, like I find it's like a weird circle, right? Where like we enjoy the consistency of a product, like let's just say light beer, whatever your light beer is. You enjoy the consistency, the predictability, you know, the optimal temperature of it. And yet it is kind of boring. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have something like this wild honey, unfiltered stuff that I'm making with random fruits that are just going bad in the drawer. And it is completely unpredictable. And I think a lot of people would say, well, it's flawed. It's not good to drink. Here's the thing. It's just different to drink. It's just unpredictable. Yeah. And so it's kind of weird that in high-end beverages, you know, if you guys have had like a sour beer, you know, 20 years ago, the sour beer would have been considered like a flaw in the American palate.
That's true, yeah.
And now, because we're craving new and exciting things and we've all been IPA'd to death, now it's like, you know, if you're not drinking something that's like 1 on the pH scale, you know, it's like new beer, battery acid sour. Like, you know, that. And so anyway, that's you are correct in your question. That was a long answer to it, but you know, great. I am fortunate to have the ability within myself to kind of keep my palate entertained. But still, man, maybe I want to be a weatherman. We'll see. I don't know.
That'd be a strange turn of events, man. I'm just waiting for that day that happens, and you're like, yeah, I'm done with Food Network. I'm just gonna go ahead and be on the Weather Channel now instead. That works.
It's gonna be like, hey Kevin, do you want to know what the weather is in your area? I'm not even gonna look it up, dude. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm gonna look outside.
Could be good, and then I'll criticize the weather of Ghost of Tsushima, which you can control with a wouldn't that be a great weather segment if I like played a flute and then told you the weather? Read a haiku about today's forecast?
It would have to be like the weather forecast of like G4 TV, which I guess is coming back. If G4 TV comes back, you would have to be like the weather segment of G4 TV. That'd be the only way it makes sense.
I mean, doesn't that sound great?
It does.
Like, I would love that. And I think now that games are at a point where you can be so realistic in terms of time of day and weather, and you know, hell, man, sometimes I'm like, Animal Crossing, damn, you're scary with the weather patterns.
Yes.
Do I need to board up my windows? You know, and will they have a hurricane in Animal Crossing?
I hope they do. That'd be awesome if they threw something in like that where we get crazy.
I feel like after a year, you should be able to reset your progress via hurricane.
Via hurricane. You got to rebuild your whole house again. Oh, Tom Nook is just like, yes, let's go.
You know, a third of your items are gone. You know,
with all those fruit trees around, though, that's probably going to be the most delicious hurricane. There's going to be smoothies everywhere.
Right.
Naturally occurring smoothies.
Right. Well, in the Pocket Camp, juice is like a thing, right?
Yeah, right. That's right. Pocket Camp, you have the juices. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all we had. Are you good with time? You got time for some quick hit?
Oh yeah, of
listener
course.
Questions? All right.
As long as you guys have time. I'm sorry to ramble.
I got all night. I'm not in any rush. So, and Lucas is just abandoning his family anyway. So it's fine.
I was gonna say, don't take my silence as like I'm seething over here. Like, hurry up.
All right. So listener questions. Most of these are quick hits, so I should go fairly quick. Haley asks, "What's your favorite thing to drink while playing video games?"
Oh man, coffee in the morning. Definitely. I love a good coffee in Fortnite where I can where it's like min-maxing again, you know, like where I can feel the caffeine making me better until it starts making me bad. Like, I love that feeling.
Exactly how I feel about beer, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. I do drink a fair amount of light beer. I've got a kegerator with 3 taps. Yeah, but those brands don't pay to be in this podcast, so they won't get any air. But they could be. Anyway, so I drink a fair amount of light beer at night. If I have to do like an afternoon gaming session, which is I rarely game in the afternoons because I'd rather do like, you know, outdoor stuff or something like that. But yeah, I basically just drink coffee, sparkling water, and beer. Period. That's it.
Lucas?
Nice. You know, I don't know if I have like a go-to or anything, but I have had specific games. Like The Witcher 3 comes to mind, and all of a sudden I want to drink like a dark, heavy stout or something like that. You know, I'm just like, oh, I'm going to pretend like I'm in the tavern listening to some guy play a lute and drink, you know, just the darkest, highest ABV, high gravity beer that I can find. And that's just what it goes to. But I will say, if I'm gaming multiplayer and we're having like a Mario Kart party or something, it's just easiest to go with like the soda / liquor combo, because then you can just set it all right there. You don't have to leave. I don't have to get up to get another beer because you want it cold. You know, just leave it all out, throw it together, and put it in a 40-ounce big gulp or something. You know, it ain't fancy, but it works.
Fair enough. For me, I'm the same thing. Like coffee in the morning when I morning game, 6 a.m. I'm waking up, starting a cup of coffee, and then I sit down and game before I have to sign into work. At night, it's either, as we all know, G Fuel for me or whiskey, depending on the night.
Whiskey flavored G Fuel.
Whiskey flavored G Fuel, copyright PSVG. Right. So to flip it, Lucas flipped this question actually back on the person that asked it, and he wants to know the favorite thing to play while you're drinking.
Oh, I mean, Jackbox is made for it, right? Yeah. I especially love TKO.
Yes, the T-shirt one.
Yeah, playing TKO with my mother-in-law, who like is a little bit technologically challenged anyway. So like watching her try and draw boobs while drinking, I can say that, right? Anyway, that is very, very entertaining. Oddly enough, that old world game, I would get, you know, pretty blurry, you know, just like really going after the Babylonians, you know, like, you know, another shot if I'm going to take down the Babs. That's, I don't know. You'd think that I'd be drinking like a ton of sake playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I do have a ton of sake in the house, but I've been actually playing it during the day because my wife and I will generally watch something, you know, together at night. So it's been kind of a coffee. I guess I should be drinking matcha or genmaicha or something like that.
There you go.
Tsushima.
Lucas?
Yeah, it just doesn't really come up too much for me anymore, but it used to be back in the day. The Rock Band, the Guitar Hero, and we'd have Halloween especially would come around, and we'd always have a party featuring that. And somewhere there is a video of me singing Poker Face to very inebriated, I might add. Good
I love
time. WarioWare Smooth Moves was always a favorite. Too.
Oh yeah,
get up and make yourself into a jerk. But I will say when I used to drink more, I played Mass Effect 2 pretty much completely blotto. Like I don't remember any of that game. I was completely like, it was a dark time in my life, and it was just like Canadian Mist and Mass Effect 2. Let's go. We're staying up all night. So somebody could tell me what happened in that game. That would be great.
Yeah, well, it's a very short story, Lucas. We can catch up very easy as what happened in Mass Effect 2.
Perfect.
For me, Mario Kart is kind of the go-to for drinking. That's just a fun one to be. We have our drunk kart nights here at PSVG all the time. Other than that, Overcooked is a great one to play when you got a buzz going too.
Oh, yeah.
Because it doesn't go well, but it's fun to play while you're buzzed. So
yeah, I was gonna say it seems like it'd be a nightmare, but I guess if you're having fun,
yeah, if you're laughing about it, because then you don't care as much. You're not as infuriated in your partner when you're both kind of intoxicated. So it works.
Sure.
I can't play that game.
Really?
I have many times, but the problem is I'm the chef. Like I am a chef, and I think that to play that game well, someone needs to be to take the orders and from the chef. Meaning, one person needs to direct the action, and the other person needs to simply do it. And like no creative thinking from player 2, and like
yeah,
I don't surround myself with people that are like that. Like they don't want to be bossed around by me. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I do. Like when my family plays too. Like I've referenced the game so much on the show that like that's the game that's going to cause my divorce. Because it just gets me. I'm the same way. Like we'll sit there and we'll look at we'll start a level. We'll look at okay, what do we have to cook, and then we'll restart the level. And right away I'm like, okay, I'm going to do these 3 things. You are in charge of this. And then like one of my middle daughter, I'm like, you're just chopping vegetables. That's it. Like, or you're just getting the ingredients for us. So I do the same thing too. And I think they think I'm a jerk for it too, but I still love playing it. And they actually, my wife and I we played a lot. So
why are you making the drinks? I told you to chop the vegetables. And
yeah. What are you doing? I said wash the dish.
I was just standing there. I wasn't.
My oldest daughter, because she kind of sucks at. She's actually good at Fortnite now, but she sucks at like all other games. I literally just make her wash dishes. I'm like, you were getting the plates and washing them. That's all you do in this game. The 3 of us will handle everything else.
Well, you as parent, you have that right. Me as
true.
husband, it's just not going to happen.
I can't get them to wash dishes in real life, so I guess virtually they can go ahead and do that.
Fair.
All right, so next question came in from Garrett, and this one was actually directed towards Lucas specifically, but I want to hear Justin's thoughts here, because Lucas, as I said, he's our resident baker around here. Lucas, can you describe the first dessert that pops into your head that you would make with peanut butter?
All right, well, this is kind of stressful now because there's a real foodie on the show, but I, of course, I've had a week to think about this now, so
that's true.
What popped in my head a week ago was basically, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. A peanut butter cheesecake. You got your typical graham cracker crust, right? And then you do like a thin layer of chocolate cheesecake, then a thick layer of peanut butter cheesecake, and then another thin layer of chocolate cheesecake. Take the whole thing and dip it, or no, I changed it. Slice it up. Like if you're going to serve it to somebody, slice it, then take the slice and pour that chocolate syrup that turns into a hard shell.
Magic shell.
Yeah. Put that on it and then just shotgun blast some crushed up peanut butter cups on top of it before it turns into the shell. And serve that there, and you've got basically death by peanut butter and chocolate. But you got to get the right combination, otherwise you're just chocolate with a little bit of peanut butter, or a whole bunch of peanut butter with a little bit of chocolate. No, it's the magic ratio, as it were. That
I'm shocked you didn't use your favorite ingredient though.
Well, and then bananas on top.
Okay, there you go. That's everything Lucas does is bananas in it. So
I make everything with bananas.
That's good.
So what would you do, Justin? Because I don't have an answer here. I do zero baking at all, so I'm no good.
So I look at baking and pastry as actually being kind of the same world, because a few of the things that govern baking are present in, like, say, frozen treats and like dairy-based confections. Mm-hmm. So for me, and this is just personal, because I don't love to bake, and like I don't love cakes. I do like pies, but I like fruit-based pies, not like I'm not like a chocolate pie that make me a chocolate cake. Anyway. Yeah. I don't think that the best peanut butter ice cream thing has been invented yet. Ooh. And like I'm the kind of guy where I like me some of that peanut butter stuff that you might find at like the the place that has the very thick ice cream things, and they turn them upside down to prove to you how thick they are.
Yep.
That place, like I like some of their peanut buttery stuff, but I still just don't find that the ratio is right. So I actually think that like a peanut butter heavy trail mixy sort of ice cream. For example, there's a famous ice cream company that has an ice cream that has peanut butter pretzels. I like this combination, but it's then too chocolatey to offset this.
Mm-hmm.
I quest for the perfect peanut butter frozen treat. I think banana has a place in there as well. Like in trail mix, you get those banana chips, but you get the banana chips, but you never get the peanut butter chips. What's going on here?
Ooh,
something's left out.
Yeah, someone says, there's something always left out. And I think that with trail mix as a guide, but with peanut butter as backbone, we can make an ice cream that really strikes the fancy of people who like peanut butter.
I feel like Eat the Universe Season 3 needs to have somehow a peanut butter ice cream dessert infused to somebody.
Maybe for Squirrel Girl, no problem.
Oh, dude, that's perfect. Oh, it'd be so good. All right. Paul Calico asks, now he's a big comic book fan, so he's got some good ones. But the first thing he asks, he has two questions. What's the strangest ingredient you've ever used?
It's kind of a cop-out, but it goes into those weird, molecular gastronomy compounds. Mm-hmm. Transglutaminase is weird. It denatures meat proteins and allows them to bind to other meat proteins. So it's like meat Velcro. That's a little weird. Fertilized duck eggs. But I don't like calling that sort of thing weird because that's a staple food in some countries.
Right.
It's weird to the American palate, but to the other half of the world, no big deal. I think nothing's really weird. Things are just more common than others. And sometimes they're weird in the way in which you describe them, like meat Velcro.
Yeah.
Or fetal duck. No one wants to hear that.
No.
Yeah, but it's delicious. It's like a soup and a sandwich, all in one thing. A crunchy sandwich.
I still can't get over meat Velcro. That would have been the episode title if we didn't already have one made for the artwork.
My new gamer tag, I think.
Right. So Paul's second question, he's a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan. So he says, since the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are loosely tied to the origin of Daredevil, as you know, have you ever thought about a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle inspired food?
Well, it's tough because they are so pizza centric. Right. You know what I mean? It really is tough. There are a bunch of other things that I think TMNT could explore. Splinter's got so much Japanese stuff going on with him, and there's so much going on Usagi Yojimbo. Literally means bodyguard rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also weird to me. I don't really love making food based around animal characters, where you would then end up I don't want to make turtle soup, that's what Shredder would do. But yet in Japan, consuming turtle is not the weirdest thing. I accidentally purchased, I thought it was an energy drink, but it was actually some turtle juice for health and well-being.
God.
Yeah. Really didn't taste that bad, but we were all very alarmed.
Yeah, so you're probably better off not knowing and just thinking it was an energy drink before.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think it would be fun to do a line of pizzas inspired by the various weirdo characters. I actually found, I don't remember him from the animated series growing up, but I found a Ninja Turtle character that is a pizza chef that looks totally disgusting. And he's got a peg leg, and rest his soul. I tweeted out that this is what Carl Ruiz's final form would look like.
Oh.
And you can look him up. Just weird pizza chef Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I need to look this up now.
Yeah, but what would that guy's ultimate pizza look like? What would Shredder's ultimate pizza look like? What would Krang's ultimate pizza look like? Can I do, a perfectly pinkly cured sweetbread to look like brains and put it in the very center of this pizza that is, that big hulking bot thing that he was in?
Yeah.
What does the Foot Clan look like, and why is it all eggplant? I don't know. I just think a series of pizzas, given that pizza is kind of the backbone food of the show and of the comics and of the manga and whatnot, I think that a series of pizzas, a perfect pizza for every character, would be very fun.
I found the character, but I can't find who's known as Pizza Face, but later on in the
Pizza
series,
Face, that's it.
But later on, he changes basically into Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs. So there's two versions of him. One is exactly how you describe it, a peg leg. And then later on, it's literally Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs, where he's just a giant mound of cheese and stuff. So I guess they reinvented him in the newer series, not the OG one, but I digress.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Tell them to call me. I'm sure we can make something fun.
We're on it. Grouchy asks, will your cookbook give him the ability to kill like Deadpool or look like Endgame Thor?
Probably more of the endgame Thor, except you probably won't have any of like the depression and sadness. Yeah, I don't really. You might learn some knife skills that could be beneficial if you're looking for a career as the Merc with a Mouth. But yeah, in general, like this is all very special occasion food. And so, like for example, the meat Mjolnir, like you're probably going to make that twice in your life. Because otherwise, like calorically, like you're just going to be so spoiled.
Oh yeah, but it's a great showpiece. Like imagine making that for somebody like, oh, his meat Mjolnir, like it's crazy. Like,
yeah.
And Lucas, just it's exactly what you think it is. Like It is insane.
I just want to be able to tell somebody, check out my meat Mjolnir. You know, and
it goes well with your meat Velcro.
Exactly. So much meat.
So non-food related one. Well, I guess technically it kind of is in a weird way. Seth wants to know Calvin and Hobbes or Peanuts.
Oh man, good question. I think it's like, how do I explain this? Like Calvin and Hobbes until you're 40, Peanuts after.
Ooh.
Because like I think Calvin and Hobbes has this. It's like a little bit more acerbic. You know, I think they're both like very like sagely, and that they present very worldly advice in a very unique way. But I think Calvin and Hobbes is like a little bit more bleak.
Yeah.
I think Peanuts really wants to be this kind of super wholesome thing and present you with some of the challenges of life, but do it in a way that is a little bit less abrasive. And calling Calvin and Hobbes abrasive is hard. But how are you going to differentiate the two in terms of the message they put out?
No, it's true. I also find it funny how you're referencing something like after 40 and none of us are 40.
Right. I'm not 40 yet either, but I feel
you're
like
just like, I'm going to give up on Calvin and Hobbes the day.
Well, I feel like after 40, you've kind of given up there on, you know, maybe you haven't given up, but I feel like a lot of people give up on changing the facts of life. They simply deal more with navigating the facts of life. And I think that Peanuts is more about navigating the facts of life. Calvin and Hobbes is like a little bit more about like, can we change the facts of life?
That's fair. I oddly enough, I agree with you. That wasn't the answer I was going to have going in, but you're right. Because I would say like, I like reading Calvin and Hobbes over Peanuts, but then you have Peanuts is always like that safe space. And while nobody likes it, you have to watch the Peanuts holiday special at Christmas time, or It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Nobody likes those anymore at all, but yet you have to watch it anyway, just because it's tradition. It's comfort food.
Yeah, I like them.
Lucas, you agree, or you going to go rogue on us?
I mean, I can't say it any better. I don't know. I've never really grew up with either of them, honestly. I read a little bit of Calvin and Hobbes when it was the collection, or you know, you'd often get the thick books, and I don't know. I was more of a Family Circus guy myself.
Okay.
No, just tracing the little kids running around, you know, going up the ladder, you know. Get it?
Marmaduke. Oh God. So I was a Garfield guy overall. I read all the books every time they came out. Takeda wants to know, what game would you erase from your memory and play again for the first time?
Shoot, man, that's a really difficult question. Gosh. Offhand, I'd probably say Breath of the Wild. You know, the sense of wonder that game gives you, and the sense of discovery. You know, once you beat a shrine one way and you figure it out, you're like, I remember that. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's never going to be the same as the first time you do it, and you never get that same sense of satisfaction. And once you've gotten all the shrines, you know, I still haven't beaten that game because I love it so much. I don't want it to end.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I refuse to beat it. Brooke is like, I'm gonna go hunting all the Koroks.
Oh God!
Yeah, she's doing it. She's doing it
for the golden poop.
Yeah, and it's weird. I'll be like playing some, you know, violent samurai game, and then I'll just hear like from, you know, the corner of the couch, yeah, ha ha.
I love that sound.
Yeah, that would be it. I wish that I had the. I'd love to go back and play Final Fantasy 3 or 6, whatever you want to call it. But also having the attention span or lack thereof. I don't know what it was that allowed me to play that game.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, like back then, I guess it's because it was a simpler time when random encounters didn't stress me out. They do now.
Yep.
That would probably be one of them. Also, it was kind of weird. My first real Pokemon game, I knew that I had all the information in my like knowledge. I could name probably more Pokemon than the average person, but I really love playing X and Y as like my first dive-in Pokemon game. And honestly, the games after that just haven't stuck with me as much, and I don't know why. I like them, but X and Y to me had this real sense of discovery and of wow and of like, what is this? I think there were so many new mons that I thought were so like well designed that it was really fun to me.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, like Final Fantasy 3 was a great answer because that's one of my favorite games from back then. Was just like, but you're right. I don't know. I can go back and play it now. But for me, Earthbound would be the one for me because I freaking love that game, and I've played it so many times that I'd love to just experience it again for the first time as I did back. I mean, geez, mid 90s. So yeah. I would love to go back and play that one again for the first time.
Nice. I think for me, when I read this question, what immediately came to mind was Dead Space 2, actually. And I think it's a good game. It's perhaps even one of the greats when it comes to the horror survival genre. But I think it also was kind of the last hurrah before I had more responsibility in life. I remember I didn't work that day and I was working thirds at the time. So I was just like up all night and I just played the heck out of this game, like 8 or 10 hours straight when it first came out. And like just having that feeling where you didn't really have to worry about anything and you're just playing a game and not really thinking about anything. Even, I was 20 something. So it's not like it was really that long ago, but before kids, before a house and all that stuff, that would be a good feeling to have back again. But also what came to mind is Skyrim, because I have not beaten that game, but I've started it like 20 times. And if I could just forget the start of that stupid snow ride with the horse carriage and everything for 20 minutes and you stand in line and tell me what you look like. To do that all over again for the first time.
I've never played either of those, so that's a good thing. And like, confession, I don't think I've ever made it out of like the first. I don't think it's Onet, right? I don't think I've ever made it out of Onet in Earthbound. And like, I know roughly what goes on, what happens, and how all the weird stuff. The game is just weird. But I don't know. This is the thing is like, I also kind of don't want to know because I kind of want to be able to come to it and be like, oh, I see what everybody was talking about. Yeah. But maybe, Earthbound hype, sadly, is, or for better or worse, I should say, is never going to die. Until they release Mother 3, we're never going to hear the end of how amazing Earthbound is. But thankfully, I have so much more Earthbound to play.
That's true.
And like, I don't know what it's like to beat Breath of the Wild, and I probably never going to know.
Blissfully ignorant. It
is.
So next question, I know the answer to this one, but I think a lot of listeners may not know. When do we get Justin officially into the MCU?
When they'll have me. We'll see. If you know the answer more than when they'll have me, I would like to know the answer.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say MCU, but the MU. You're in the MU.
I am in the MU, yeah. I'm in the comics universe, yes. Right. Roughly as a character named the Raging Chef. And this was a character that we designed for their show called Make Me Hero. And this is a character that can manipulate induction, essentially. So it's an electromagnetic heating when he's angry. And so it's kind of like a little bit Hulk, a little bit Magneto, a little bit Human Torch, kind of all in one. And I have a lot of plans for that character. It's actually on my list of pipe dreams on the whiteboard that you can just see barely over this shoulder right there. But Raging Chef, I have a lot of plans for that. And I think that might be one of those things where, maybe I'm not making food every day, but maybe Raging Chef is. But, I got to get, there would have to be so much stuff. And like, I'm a decent-ish writer. But like, I can't compare with some of the people that work in Marvel, and I can't compare with, some of these stories. Like Ta-Nehisi Coates doing Black Panther, the recent run of like X-Men with Hickman.
Yeah.
Like what am I going to bring to this table? Hickman needs to have me on speed dial when he's writing his food thing, and I'll be like, hey, what's a food? That's a food. There you go. Like, I don't know.
Partnership. Just find a partner, make it happen.
We'll see.
Fair enough. So last question we have from listeners: what is Justin's favorite recipe from the cookbook, Eat the Universe?
It varies day to day, but you never forget your first. And I think the first thing that we really did as a bona fide Eat the Universe show was the hot chicken dish representing Phoenix and Cable. So it's a Nashville hot chicken, but done in the style of the Japanese oyakodon, which means family bowl. Some people would say mother and child bowl. Some people say chicken and egg bowl. It doesn't matter. You can fact check me on that. But the cool thing about it is generally it involves chicken, it involves egg, it involves being in a bowl. And so we made Nashville hot chicken with an egg. Amazing. We put it over rice, even better because it kind of like gives you some respite from the heat. Mm-hmm. And we added pickles to it. And like pickles and rice is kind of a no-brainer. And pickles and hot chicken is like the law. And it was great. And it was not just delicious food that honored the characters, but it really, I thought, represented the characters well because, yes. Phoenix is like a flaming bird. And that's kind of like when I was like, damn. Maybe we got it. I think we got it.
It really was like, and I use the example all the time. It's one of the smartest interpretations you did, like right off the bat, where you're like, this makes total sense if you know the history of the characters. Like at surface level, you might not. You're like, oh, hot chicken because Phoenix is a bird, but it's like no, Cable's her son. It's the egg. Like it just makes so much sense. It's awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right, so that wraps up the questions. So just two quick stories I want to talk about here, and hopefully you have some knowledge of it here. Marvel's Avengers game. You been following that at all?
I have. I'm very excited to. I pre-ordered it obviously because I'm excited about it. I know nothing about it, so don't even try. But mostly, I'm excited about getting the Hulk mitts in Fortnite. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes, that was revealed as part of the story. This week they did the war table where if you play through the beta, you will get the Hulk hands and Hulk Buster hands in Fortnite.
I mean, Hulk Buster, great. Hulk hands? Yes, please. Like, yes, please. Like, think about it. Like, instead of getting axed, you're getting punched. Like, I'm very excited about that. You're getting smashed.
Yeah.
So, what about the Avengers game? What do you want to know?
Well, no, so they just did the war table, another war table, which they're kind of doing as like their mini presentations to give you some details in the game. That Fortnite was one of the announcements that the beta is coming in August. If you pre-ordered the game on PlayStation, you'll be able to play it early, and then we'll see. Pre-order beta for PlayStation is available August 7th. If you pre-ordered on Xbox, you get it later on to play through. The open betas are there through basically so almost the whole month of August. You'll be able to play this game ahead of time and experience all the different modes, some of the different characters get introduced, and kind of just get a feel for how this game is going to work. But the exciting, main points that they highlighted was, number one, if you complete the beta, you get the Fortnite hands, which is fun, and I'll have to make sure I do that as well. But the second thing was they unveiled their first post-launch character.
Hawkeye, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he looks great.
Yeah. I'm excited about all of this, and I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a little sketched that I don't know what is gameplay and not gameplay anymore. I think there is a problem, and maybe we should address this as a big problem in gaming in general. I think gaming and fans are kind of going two ways, where some people want their movies to be their games and their games to be their movies, and some people are like, I would actually, things are too crazy now, I'd prefer to 8-bit or whatever. Yeah. And or like a retro style game. And I think there's never been more retro gaming options, nor have there been more games that play as if they are a movie, for better or worse. This game, I don't know. I think some people were like, oh, those characters look mighty weird, but you can't put Robert Downey Jr. in a video game without paying Robert Downey Jr. to be in the video game.
Right.
There's a reason we got Norman Reedus in in Death Stranding. He got to promote his show in the shower, and I also think Norman Reedus is perfect for that game. But I digress. You're not going to be able to do that. So I think a lot of people were like, these characters look weird.
Yeah, and I thought that too. The initial trailer we had at E3 last year when they first showed it, that was one of the first things I said. I'm like, wow, these guys they didn't look. It wasn't that I was part of your brain at this point, we've been dealing with Marvel movies for a decade now. Like, we just associate hey, Iron Man looks like Robert Downey Jr. That's just how it is. Mm-hmm. I'm able to separate that, but some of the character models just look bad. But since then, these 2 War Table conferences they've done since then, I think the character models look a lot better. And the level of customization you have with your characters is you can change that. So if you don't like the version of Thor, like the beard looks weird, cool. You don't need the beard. You can customize it however you want. And they're dipping into some deep cuts in the comics to bring up different character models and stuff you can do, whether it's Kamala Khan or Hawkeye. There's all these different Hulk versions. You get Gray Hulk, all these different things in here. It dips into a huge base of the Marvel history, which is awesome. And I mean, you got MODOK as the main villain, so that's awesome too with AIM.
Yeah, I'm excited about all of it. I think that it's going to be great. I think that anybody who's naysaying it is like, guys, like Square Enix, Marvel, okay, I think we'll be all right.
Right.
Yeah.
Something tells me that they're not gonna. This is the first Square Enix Marvel collaboration ever, correct? Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
But Square Enix has worked with Disney with Kingdom Hearts, right? Mm-hmm. Which mm-hmm. I never got into that, but I know that the people who love it, and the people who don't.
Yep.
But I mean, how many Kingdom Hearts games have there been? Tons, right?
Oh yeah.
So obviously they're a happy couple, and the fans of that series are happy. The Disney Square Enix thing. I really think it's going to work out, and I think we'll all be fine. I'm just excited, and I'm curious to see what is the gameplay, because I don't think anybody exactly knows what that's going to look like just yet.
Yeah, I mean, they showed in this conference a little bit of how these different missions go through. Some are going to be story-based missions, some are going to be war zones, they call them. The harm challenge rooms are there, so you got the augmented reality practice rounds that they can go through. So there's different things here, but I think the gameplay overall is going to feel very much like, some people groan, and this comparison made a lot to Destiny. We have these different events and these points on the map you can drop in and do a mission at any point. I feel like it's going to be similar to that. But the cool thing is you're leveling up your team as you go along. So even if you're not playing with other people, you can have, your team of 4, whichever characters you want to pop in there, but they're actually your versions of those characters. So if you've grinded away in Hulk for a long time and you have all these great buffs and character, enhancements or customizations, and then you decide, well, I want to play as Iron Man for a while, but you still take Hulk with you, that iteration of your Hulk is there. So he has all the same abilities and everything there. So you can really level up your whole team, even though it doesn't play. So it's kind of like an old school JRPG, but you're not actually having to control the characters. It's kind of just that weird thing. We'll all upgrade together. We'll all be enhanced together, and you can infuse, a combination of your bot characters and your friends playing. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I think that's one of the things that I think Square took away from Final Fantasy 15 and just never really implemented. And I think we said this way back when was I actually thought the AI of those characters playing with you, Gladio and Photo Boy and Chef Man, who I actually should have. I mean, it would have been so good in my pre-haircut, my Corona haircut, but anyway. I thought that AI was actually nice, and I liked it. And I thought when you teamed up with them accidentally to do a move, that was great, and it felt cool, and it looked awesome. I can only imagine if they apply that to this with that 4-man hero, whatever team, what that's going to look like. And that's all that I have hoped for from the beginning of this, is that a single-player experience will feel that exciting. If you could switch between characters, holy moly! And then mentioning that you can then grind a certain character to level them up, man. I think that's going to be a really exciting experience,
Absolutely. The other news here, and Lucas, I want to hear your thoughts on this one first once we get through it. So you just finished Spider-Man not that long ago for the first time. So obviously the hot topic since the PS5 debut, unveiling, if you will, has been Miles Morales coming to PS5. Latest rumors. So I know this game has been kind of I hate to say because I'm excited for it, but it's been a mess publicity wise, where they were like, oh, it's going to be a really short game, and they're like, no, it's actually a full-fledged game, or there's been a lot of back and forth. The latest rumor is that it's actually going to include a remaster of the original Spider-Man in it as well, which makes sense because everything we've seen has been for the PS5 things, they're showing hey, they have 0 load times. Every time they showed Spider-Man and all those previews, so they have to have some sort of build available for it. So now this may calm some naysayers and maybe get people who haven't played Spider-Man, which I don't know, people don't know what you're missing if you haven't played Spider-Man yet, but get to play that on the PS5 version as well, on top of the Miles Morales game.
I mean, I think that's a smart move. It definitely helps in the PR category for sure. But if that is the case, I mean, you see throughout the game the steps to this this happening, like this reality that it eventually gets to. And if you could just go from, for the people who missed out or are waiting for the PS5 or, whatever, who haven't played it, if they can go from that story into Miles Morales, all the better, really, because it's all kind of connected. And so if you need that kind of value for dollar lift to get you over the edge there, then sure, why not? And with where we're at in consoles right now, it kind of makes sense that they would even do that anyway. Bring some of those good looking games over, give it a little bit of a facelift, because I mean, come on, the game looks pretty good. I know the water fiasco, Watergate, if you will, Puddlegate. Maybe we'll get those puddles now. Ooh, PS5, next gen. We want next gen. Next gen is puddles. Okay?
We're going to ray trace the hell out of those puddles.
That's right. Not too many, though, because otherwise it'll be running at 30 frames per second. And that is also the devil these days. So
that is true. Yeah. So it also goes to give some credence to this rumor is that this was reported in Game Informer as well. So it's not like this is just some Twitter bot saying, hey, this is what I've heard. This was in the new issue of Game Informer, says that it isn't, while Miles Morales isn't a sequel, it's more akin to Uncharted Lost Legacy, where it's a smaller experience just featuring Miles, but it does come with an updated version of the first game bundled in as well. So
makes me wonder if some of it might be like during the time that you were playing Spider-Man. During that time, maybe you get to see some of his perspective as well, and maybe that's why they felt the need to include it all together.
Maybe. So Justin, you primed to do some Miles web slinging?
Yeah, I have no criticisms of the original Spider-Man game at all. I only have ideas, of what I think would be even more over the top. You have the sandbox there already. Yeah. The sandbox of New York is built. I saw no reason why you couldn't have other characters, or you couldn't be playing as villains, or I'm not a game designer. Maybe that is impossible. But I felt like if you could reskin Spider-Man so many times and have so many suits and so many different abilities, I would pay an additional $20 to just fly around as Iron Man and shoot the various organizations that are fighting on the ground.
Yeah.
I would do that. I will be a little teeny tiny bit bummed if Miles doesn't get, because Miles is beloved.
Yeah.
And so I would really love to see something super fleshed out for him, and not just like I don't want this to be DLC. I would like it to feel as though this is a big movement forward for Miles as a character.
I think Miles might be a little bit more relatable to today's audience and today's, socio-economical climate, whatever you call it. Not to get too political, but yeah, I think that story might be a little bit deeper, might hit a few more strings chords with the folks, and that's important too. You can say something.
I also feel like if you're just diving into, like, I would buy Spider-Man as a game simply because the game is good, not just because of Marvel, not just because of Spider-Man. It is simply an entertaining game to play. It's just a dream. That's another game that I haven't beaten and won't beat. You know why? Because I just like swinging around, because it's fun. I'll boot it up. I have it digitally on the PS4 Pro. I'll boot it up when, I just want to do something for 15 minutes and enjoy myself doing it. That said, though, Miles, I just really feel like Miles' story deserves to be told via video game. We've been playing Spider-Man video games since Atari.
Yeah.
Not Miles games. And that's my only thing. Once again, I don't think they're going to mess this up. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So it'll be exciting fall for us Marvel fans for sure. Well, we may not have the movies going on right now because of COVID and all that fun stuff, but we're certainly getting some games to satisfy that there. So that's really all I had there, Justin. So, I mean, if you want to, plug anything where people should be checking out. I mean, obviously boxlunch.com has all the Eat the Universe merch here. Lucas wants the apron. We were talking about that earlier.
Apron. I need an apron. I'm buying the apron. It's awesome. Chef's kiss.
I put it through the test, dude. It also folds perfectly to make a half apron if you would like to not have the thing. And the pockets still stay functional. They're right below the fold line. So
That is awesome.
Yeah, it also works as a decent cape.
That'll make a very good superhero costume. My routine. I just go the other way.
I feel bad for your wife. I just imagine you just running around the house with your Eat the Universe cape.
And that is it. Only the cape.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much that's how we do. Why not? No, you guys have actually done so much to hype up all my stuff. I really don't have anything else to plug. I really appreciate all you guys do for having me on, and in general, I just I like the work that you guys do and the way in which you discuss and talk about video games in a way that is critical yet positive. Moving things forward, but with conscience and with opinion. It's good.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But yeah, so boxlunch.com. Check out the Eat the Universe merch is there. I will point out, Justin, the pop vinyl is gone. That thing's gone.
I know. It comes back periodically, but I don't have any information on it. I've got 2 coming in the mail, one for my mother-in-law, one for my sister-in-law, and then I've got the one that they sent me.
Yep.
And that's it. So I'm happy about that. That's a success, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, I got mine. Mine's coming. I mean, when it's released, I know it's not coming out for another couple of weeks, but yeah, got mine on order. So I'm glad I secured that night that those things launch. I had to grab that there. So obviously, yes, everyone. Once again, Marvel's Eat the Universe, the cookbook, available on Amazon.com. It's also on Box Lunch as well. So grab that. Yeah, Justin, where can people follow you on social media though if they want to stay in touch with you?
I am Eat Fellow Humans pretty much across the board, and you can reach me at any of those things. And if you're curious about something else like a gamer tag or my battle.net or something like that, you can just hit me up.
All right. Lucas, where can people find you, sir?
Yeah, I'm hanging out on our Discord as usual. You can catch me out there just doing whatever, bringing random to every channel, as I say. And then I'm also on Twitter at heavymetal_riff, and probably all the other stuff, Instagram, whatever. Not doing a lot these days on social media. Social media is too much. It's almost a vacation just to not turn the phone on. You know what I mean?
I wish I knew what you meant.
I can't imagine having it be part of my job.
It's a brand awareness. You can follow the site, obviously, at PSVG on Twitter. Head over to the website, psvg.blog, to find links to all the awesome stuff, all the other great shows available on the network, links to the Discord, links to the Patreon. Speaking of which, I have to thank our Patreon producers. So special thank you to Edwin Callow, Barry Cathcart, Josh the Bonesaw Barboni, Devin Tyus, Chris McElfresh, Kyle Heyman, Paul Calicote, Mike Masick, Zach Bradshaw, and Nick Falhaba. Thank you for your support. And if you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/PSVG. So thank you again so much, Justin, for having some fun with us and talking about all things Marvel, nerddom, food, just everything. It's great to have you on.
Always a pleasure, guys.
All right. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, hopefully, for telling a friend. But most importantly, we ask that you never
stop
playing video games.
This has been a PSVG production. Any music, sound effects, or the like is owned by their respective copyright holders. No infringement is intended. The views expressed in this production are those of the individual contributor and may not necessarily reflect PSVG. This production may not be repurposed, reused, or redistributed without the express written consent of PSVG. PSVG is powered by patrons at patreon.com/PSVG. Become a patron to get special perks, including access to exclusive content.